This is Monty in the Morning, the show Phoenix Magazine readers voted #1 talk radio show in Arizona.
#1 during your morning commute.
#1 whenever news breaks during your day.
And #1 whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, man, how the heck are you? It is the Monty Show, a Football Friday on the Monty Show. It is the last show of September. Before I almost
careful, it's not October yet,
dude. Easy. Of September. Already, it is the last show of September.
Yep.
Cannot wait for that. We've got to talk about BYU football. Boy, did BYU struggle last night. They get the win, but what is your level of concern about BYU? As we head for October and two of the most difficult games on the schedule in BYU and Arkansas, BYU and Notre Dame this coming weekend, a week from tomorrow. Lot to get to there. Tua Tagovailoa dealing with another concussion, what we assume is his second in 4 days. An ugly situation unfolding on the field last night. We'll talk about all that. Harris LaChance joins us at 8:30. Thanks to our friends at Papa Murphy's Pizza. Big shout out to the boys at Coug Connect for facilitating that interview for us. Every week, Harris LaChance joins the show. And again, if you haven't been to Coug Connect, if you haven't subscribed to Coug Connect, it is the best NIL collective in the country. They do great work for BYU players. A significant portion of your subscription goes right into the pocket of BYU football players. Get to CougConnect.com/subscribe. CougConnect.com/subscribe. It is a very, very good deal. They are simply put the best NIL group in the business. So check them out, CougConnect.com. Thanks so much for facilitating Harris LaChance on our show every week, usually on Wednesdays, but with a Thursday game, we're doing it on Football Friday morning, presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza. Jake, let's get into the game because BYU did not exactly look stellar last night. Now, of course, they get the win, but you see a lot of things that seem to be, is lack of discipline too harsh? Because that seems like the term that fits. 10 penalties, multiple neutral zone infractions, just really atypical Kalani Sitake football teams. What is your level of concern, Jake, with BYU right now?
Yeah, I think that I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm ultra concerned that the program is going in the wrong direction or anything. I just think, they're not playing disciplined football. you're right. The penalties, the lack of execution in the run game in the first half, struggling with I guess what some people would call a triple option look, just not prepared. And Kalani basically said that this Utah State offense and what they rolled out was not what they had rolled out in any other game this year. So they were admittedly unprepared and had to make adjustments at the half. And I think that it's just crazy because I don't know, again, it just continues this trend of, every week you're going to get everyone's best, yesterday on the show, we were talking about how this was Utah State's Super Bowl, which it is, and they played their ass off undoubtedly. But I think for BYU, what you have to understand is people are waiting for you. People are we're going to Lavelle. We're going to go and play BYU and give them everything that we have. And that to me is something that BYU needs to adjust to. You need to be prepared that people aren't just rolling into your stadium and it's just another week. We're playing BYU. Who cares?
Right.
This is people are fired up to play you. And I think that's because you're good. So to me, my level of concern, to me, my feeling isn't really concern. It's more hey, you guys got to button up the program a little bit. You guys got to you got to dial in your preparation, because saying, that, whether it was that they did something that you haven't seen or you just weren't prepared or whatever it is, the fact is you were getting rolled in the first half. You were struggling. They were running basically at will. And then in the second quarter, after they had done a bunch of running in the first quarter, they started throwing it. And then in the second half, you lock down defensively, and what do you know? You pull away and win the game handily. So that's what I say. I just think I'm not that concerned per se. I just think it's very much a business, mindset. Like, hey, we did not do a good enough job getting ready, and we paid the price for that 2 weeks in a row, in my opinion. With the Wyoming thing, I felt like you were not prepared for Wyoming's physicality and their ability to run the football. And then this week against Utah State, I felt like you weren't ready for the run game once again. And obviously Utah State does it differently than Wyoming, but still it's one and the same. Run game one way, run game the other way. You can't stop the run early in games, and you for sure can't run the ball early in games. So I say my concern is for the run game on both sides of the ball, not necessarily for the program as a whole.
Yeah, and I think the stopping the run is a huge problem. You gave up 204 yards to a Utah State team, frankly, that has sputtered all season long, been wildly inconsistent. And for most of the first half, to my eyes, Utah State looked like the better team, and a lot of concerns that you mentioned, the penalties and the undisciplined football, the inability to stop the run. You just feel like this BYU football team is playing below its ability level, and I mean significantly below its ability level. It's shocking that the mistakes continue to pile up. And I guess the question that I have is BYU playing down to its competition, or is this just who this football team is? Because we didn't see these mistakes until we got to Oregon. Right now, you're heading to Las Vegas to take on a Notre Dame team, frankly, that's a heavy favorite.
Yeah.
Before you take on Arkansas, who's got Alabama this weekend. I don't know. I just feel like this is a team that's not – it's not that they're ill-prepared. They're just simply not mentally tough in the moment. And it is baffling to me that you repeatedly line up in the neutral zone, that you're repeatedly missing assignments in the run game. And I understand that you're rushing three and you're dropping eight, and I understand why that is the schematic against an inexperienced quarterback. But it just doesn't make sense against the run. I mean, this three-man defensive line is getting absolutely dominated. And the other thing that stood out to me last night was you're rotating the right side of your offensive line, and I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
When you have Harris LaChance and Kingsley Suamataia as your guard and tackle on the right side, you're dominating. You're turning guys. You're running the football well. Miles Davis, again, here's another question I have. Why is Miles Davis not your starting running back?
Yeah.
Why is he not your full-time guy right out of the gate? Because Miles Davis in the second half, I thought, was the difference maker in this game for the BYU Cougars, Jake, yet he doesn't seem to be the go-to guy at running back right now.
Yeah, and I think this is a function of, Kalani, if I'm being honest. I think that, and again, hear me clearly, I'm not saying Kalani is a bad head coach. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that I think Kalani, in his style and in the way he sort of goes about things, is not someone who likes to be real definitive about performance. Meaning that, okay, hey, Brooks was struggling, so against Wyoming, we're going to go running back by committee. Okay, Miles Davis had a coming out party against Wyoming of sorts, And so what did I say after Wyoming? Hey, he's got to do it again. Like you just need to keep performing, keep producing, and take that role. And so to me, if I'm a head coach and I see Miles Davis do what he did last night, specifically in the second half, as you were just saying, he would be my starting running back. It just is as simple as that, because I feel like Christopher Brooks has had plenty of opportunities. And I get it. Christopher Brooks punched one into the end zone last night. Like, okay, cool. But it very much feels like a situation or running back room that you would find in the NFL. All kinds of teams in the NFL have a guy that is their workhorse, their guy that basically drives the team down the field, and then they've got their bigger back for the end zone. Right? Like, that's what Jerome Bettis made a career on, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
So to me, I don't feel like this concept is very difficult, but I also struggle with this concept that you brought up about Harris LaChance and in the right side of this offensive line.
Say it. I want to hear you say it. Kingsley Suamataia.
Yeah, Kingsley Suamataia.
My man.
The guy is a stud. And I think the only thing I can think is that you were catering to injury management, meaning that that you're better than Utah State. The only reason Utah State is in this game is because your defense was literally unprepared for anything that Utah State was rolling out in the first half. I am being harsh today on BYU because it was an embarrassing performance in the first half.
Yeah.
So to me,
is it disappointing? Is it frustration? Like, what is your emotion on this
I just think it's surprising. It's like you're driving a Ferrari like a Toyota Corolla. Like, what are we doing? What is this defense? Like, to me, there are every defense can be run a certain way, right? Obviously, there are defenses that are played in different schemes all across the landscape, but core fundamentals never really change in football. If you're playing dime against obvious running downs, that's not really going to work out for you too well. And we saw that too often last night. Well,
and I think the absence of Malik Moore played a role. I mean, you give up a late passing touchdown. I mean, you just don't feel good coming out of this game.
It's not confidence-inspiring.
And that's why we said, and I think we've been saying it for 2 weeks, Utah State is a very dangerous game. Utah State is a trap game. Utah State is one of those games where you just didn't feel like you were going to play as well as you should have played. It was a Thursday after a Saturday. You just didn't feel like this was going to be an easy game, and it certainly was not. Now, having said that, I have no reason to believe, and we'll ask Harris LaChance about this at 8:30 as Harris joins us, presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza. But I just think that a guy like Harris LaChance, who I think has been pretty bluntly honest with us about issues on this team, you can't tell me they're happy with their performance. This isn't one of those things where you're like, well, we got the win, we can move on.
Yeah.
This is a game that you feel like there's a reason Harris was posing with the wagon wheel at midfield after the game. Like, this was a game they cared about.
Yeah.
And it's a little surprising to come out and get the penalties that you got. I mean, and there's a lot of good in this game. I think, to your point, I thought Christopher Brooks got you some nice hard yards, ran effectively. Miles Davis ran effectively. Certainly seeing a guy like Gunnar Romney, even with the drop touchdown, to see Gunnar Romney back on the field, to see him being explosive, to see Keanu Hill again dominating. I mean, there's a lot to like in this game. But it's starting to mount the insecurities across this defensive line, the insecurities stopping the running game, the penalties, the mental mistakes, the mediocrity that just seeps into a game and then becomes dominant in that game.
Yeah, and I thought the substitution penalty in the first half was a perfect example of this. I mean, Utah State's clearly running the hurry up because they know that your defense is going to struggle with the pace, and you got a guy who's probably 15 yards away from the sideline when the ball is snapped as a 12th man on the field for your defense. Like, it wasn't close, and to me, again, like I do feel like, obviously I'm being hard on BYU today, but I think it's warranted. Like, I feel, honestly, I was thinking about this, last night watching this game, like, yeah, you beat Baylor in a really tight game where, Jake missed some kicks and you pulled it through, and you had that big emotional, upbringing in that game. And then I feel like we haven't really bounced back from that. I feel like you got your ass kicked by Oregon. I feel like Wyoming was, just not a great performance. And then Utah State happens. And too often, this team comes out really slow. Like, it's amazing to me that on your home field at Lavelle, man, that you would come out and just, for lack of a better word, just get dominated. I mean, you got dominated in the first quarter. That was an ugly first quarter, which is why, we said on the picture for today's show that BYU football is ugly right now, because it is. And I wonder against Notre Dame and against Arkansas and later down the line when you're playing P5 talent, hey, when you get down by 10 points, let's say, there's no coming back from that for this team. This team's not good enough, right? You're not good enough to get down 10 to Oregon in the first quarter, which is what happened, and then you lost 31-7.
The slow starts are a legitimate concern. I mean, when you look at the slow starts that you've seen, it's now a pattern. This is not a one-off. Well, we just had a bad start at Autzen Stadium. No, because you came home, you had a bad start against Wyoming, you've had a bad start against Utah State. You can't do that against Notre Dame. You can't do that against
Oregon.
Oregon, Arkansas, the best teams you face come out with their foot on the gas, especially when you're on the road, when you're at Autzen Stadium or you're at Allegiant taking on a Notre Dame club. You better come out ready to go. And these slow starts are certainly concerning. But I mean, I don't generally. I like A-Rod. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand the play calling last night. I don't understand the running back rotation last night. Frankly, I don't understand. I don't understand why you're not playing aggressive football out of the box.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. And when you see that guys like Chase Roberts aren't a go and Puka Nacua, who was available to play last night but didn't, okay, I want more tight end then. I want, I want more from this football team. And looking at the targets and looking at the distribution, I wasn't happy with that in the first half.
Yeah.
And I think that you have to get Miles Davis the football. He's your number one running back. He brings an explosive, quick guy to the backfield that Chris Brooks just is not. Christopher Brooks is more of the hammer, and that has real value.
Yeah.
And I'm fine if you're saying or, but it's got to be Miles Davis on the field when the game starts because he is a different caliber of running back. I mean, I look at the use of guys like Cosper. I have no doubt that Cosper's got the goods. I mean, He's a phenomenal route runner. Like, that was one of the things that really stood out to me last night.
He got hands, too. I mean, that was a nice catch.
That was a nice catch, but you're wasting Jaron Hall right now. The guy is playing phenomenal football. You have over a dozen scouts at the game. Not that matters in your play calling, but it's a tip of the cap to Jaron. You're getting good offensive line play, and you're putting Jaron Hall in a less than ideal situation to succeed. And I'm a big believer, whether it's Mitch Trubisky or Jaron Hall, you've got to run an offense that is best suited to your talent. Run Miles Davis and allow Jaron Hall to operate in the pocket, outside of the pocket, in the run game. Allow Jaron Hall to play to his strengths, because that's the only way you're going to get the best offense.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to get the best out of each one of your players. And again, I just simply go back to the fact that you've got all-American candidates on the offensive line. You've got huge size. You've got a Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback. Let those guys carry the football team. Let those guys help the defense. Help get the defense off the field. Let's run some more. Let's be committed to the run more. That's what I just don't understand some of the play calling. Because you're not, I think one of the things that people don't understand is you're not calling plays one at a time. Especially to start a game, you're going to come out with a package of 10 plays you've scripted, and then you're going to adjust. You should be calling one play to set up the next play. Mm-hmm. You should be calling plays on a drive to set up the next drive. I just don't see that kind of cohesive thinking right now offensively. And again, I don't think the offense is as big a problem as the run defense is. But
Agreed.
You see these things on offense that really should be helping the defense, and yet you're not. You're going 3 and out, and against Utah State, that's just not good enough.
Yeah, and I think even if you've won the game, I wouldn't be surprised if you fell in the rankings, honestly, because it was not a good showing. And I think that it's too often I ask the question of why you're throwing behind the line of scrimmage on third down. Like, what is the thought process? Why, why not come out and really establish that offensive line and get your offensive linemen off the ball, man? Like, that to me is what's surprising, because I do feel like when BYU does have dialed in play calling, they're tough to stop. I mean, because you have Jaron and because you have emerging talents that are becoming problems like Keanu Hill and
Cody Epps. I'm telling you,
dude,
I can only say it so many times. Cody Epps is a stud.
Yeah.
And you've got to get him the football.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Jaron's talented enough to feed these guys. Like, put it in his hands.
I look at Epps, Cosper, and Gunnar Romney leading the way.
Yeah.
That's 13 receptions right there out of guys who haven't contributed all season long. Like, I look at Braden Cosper. He's not a guy you've counted on all season long.
Yeah.
But with Puka not in the lineup, and from what I understand, I was told that Puka was dealing with a hamstring, not with an ankle, is what his issue was last week on that odd play where he re-injured himself. He was available to play last night, but he didn't. So you had, a nice slate of guys like Ethan Erickson's touchdown catch was a fantastic throw and catch.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're also running the football at a clip where your best backs as a team, you ran for 3.7 yards a carry. But Miles Davis carried it 8 times, 39 yards. That's 5 yards a carry. You're getting Chris Brooks for 11 carries and 90 yards. That's 8.2 yards a carry. Run the football more effectively. Let that run game set up the play action. Call plays to set up more plays. That's what. There's just cohesiveness is the word that I'm looking for.
Well, and look, I what we're not saying is that A-Rod needs to be fired or it's some ridiculous thing, but like I think a lot of people go to that in BYU world. Like a lot of people will be like, oh well, Tuiaki needs to be fired after the Oregon loss, or this guy needs to go after this bad performance, and it's like, firing people is just a convenient answer to a football team struggling. I just think that this team needs to find its stride again. I felt like against USF you had your stride. Against against Baylor, like you battled, you were in that game, you fought and won that game, and then to get trounced by Oregon, I felt like really sort of like you were climbing, like there was a lot of momentum in the program, and then it just shot you down. And now you've had 2 opponents that you should have dominated and beat by, like, not exaggerating, 4 or 5 touchdowns, and you didn't do that. And I think now you're going up against legit talent. Whatever you want to say about Notre Dame, they're a legit P5 team. And this is a big-time game for your season, man. If you come out and you get blown up by Notre Dame, like, I don't even know what you say or what the point of the rest of the season is, bro.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I see all of your comments. Stick around. Obviously, you guys make the show great, and we're going to get all your comments on BYU coming up in 10 minutes. Right now, it's Football at 50, 10 of the hour, every hour. We talk about the biggest stories in football, and very clearly, I don't even think there is an argument what the biggest story in football is right now. And it is Tua Tagovailoa and this concussion last night on Thursday Night Football. I don't even know what to say about this. I look at these situations and I look at how people are reacting to these things, and it is just shocking to me that we are still dealing with this. And I look at Mike McDaniels, and I listen to what McDaniel said after the game about his quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, and it is shocking.
That was an emotional moment. That is not part of the deal that anyone signs up for, even though you know it's a possibility in football to have something that you have to get taken off on a stretcher. All of his teammates, myself, we were all very, very concerned. So the best news that we could get is that everything is checked out, that he didn't have anything more serious than a concussion. He'll be flying back with us here on the plane.
You didn't have anything more significant than a concussion. I believe, and in my opinion, this is his second concussion in 4 days. Stop shoveling this garbage at me where it was a back injury on Sunday in Miami, because I don't buy that.
Yeah.
Your back when it hurts doesn't mean you shake your head trying to get the cobwebs out. This was, in my opinion, his second concussion in 4 days. This was a seizure along with a concussion that caused a seizure in his brain, which is why his hands locked up. I mean, do you understand that this is a significant brain injury? And I don't know that people understand that. Concussions are brain damage. This is not something to take lightly. Tua Tagovailoa's life was altered last night in Cincinnati. And I don't know that the Miami Dolphins or the National Football League cared about that until it happened. They in my opinion, were derelict in their duty. And this thing with concussions in the NFL, I mean, if you look at the rate of participation in football across this country, it is down 40%. 40% less participation in youth football because of concussions. And it just, to me, Jake, it is inexcusable that you would use a line like, well, we're thankful it was nothing more serious than a concussion, which tells me you don't think concussions are all that serious.
Yeah, and I think concussions are the most serious injury that you can get. I mean, again, if we're being serious about this, like a broken bone, a torn ligament, like whatever, breaks to your body that aren't your brain, you can come back from those. Those will heal. There's a process. We get it, right? Your brain, you only get one of, and frankly, there's no real fixing it. That's the problem. There is no...
A lot of it, like you just said, is, I don't have to do it.
50 years old after playing in the NFL, and that's the problem. And I really struggle with this concept. Like, is there video of the concussion protocol that he allegedly went through? Because I don't even buy that they had a full concussion protocol. I really don't. Like, they're living on this leg of there was an independent neurologist and he cleared all the steps. And I'm just like, my ass, dude, there is no way, no how that he should have been back in that game. And then on top of that, playing 4 days later, it's like, I agree with everyone saying, hey, you got to protect Tua from Tua. And frankly, you got to protect Tua from the Dolphins because it's getting out of hand now.
Well, and I think the thing that people don't understand is that there is no such thing as having your bell rung. I saw that 1,000 times on Twitter last night. Well, Sunday he just had his bell rung. There's no such thing as that. That's a concussion. Your brain, to be graphically honest with you, your brain, is a sponge that's sitting in the middle of a gel-like substance. And anytime that sponge hits your skull, it's a concussion. And that is damage that you cannot undo. And football players, by this point where Tua's at in his life, he's likely had hundreds of concussions. And it's so frustrating that we don't think about these guys as human beings. He's an actual human being. He's not a robot. He's got a life. He's got family. And all we're worried about is whether or not they're going to cover the spread and how that's going to impact your fantasy team. Like, it was so... Like, I had to turn off Twitter last night because all of the people are like, oh, well, they're no longer undefeated. Oh, they lost the game. Tua lost them the game. Like, who cares, man? He went to the hospital. Mike McDaniels, the head coach of the Dolphins last night, was asked about the situation. He said that when Tua was laying on the field, he was calling for Mike McDaniels. McDaniels walks out there. And he looks at Tua and he's trying to communicate with him. And he's like, that's not the guy that I've come to know. He just wasn't there. Do you understand that, like, Tua is, I mean, you're out. You don't remember that. Your brain erases that. Like, how is that possible that for those 4 minutes, Tua has no idea what happened? No idea what happened. And you're gonna get out of here. Like,
yeah,
I'm
dude,
so upset about it.
And it's disturbing. Like, it irks me to watch that video where his hands are twisted and seizing. Like, he's like, my comparison, what popped into my head was you're watching a human being wilt like a plant on a football field. That's what that is. That's why it's frustrating, man. And I have to say, football has never, like, for me personally, football has never been my number one. Because of the damage it does to human beings.
What's happening to the player.
Dude, it's incredibly conflicting to watch the game and cover the game because it is an enjoyable product, but at the same time, it's quite literally killing people. Like, let's not beat around the bush. Like, 10 years from now, will Tua still be alive? We can't definitively say that based on what's happening right here.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It is...
It's disturbing. There's no, like, to me, that is the perfect word to describe it. We don't have proof that he actually went through protocol. We don't have proof that he actually passed it other than their word. Like, there needs to be, and I'm not even saying the video evidence has to be released to the public because of obvious privacy standards, but the league needs to be able to see something.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly how all this plays out because I just don't know what you do with it. I really don't. I don't think there's any way to fix it. Concussions will always be part of the game. I think
fix is not playing, and that's why you see the rates.
And you can mitigate concussions during practice and all that. I totally understand it. But, man, that was an ugly scene on the field last night. And by the way, Amazon ignoring it, probably was not the right way to go, but they didn't ignore it. They refused to talk about what happened Sunday.
They didn't tell the whole story.
Yeah, and it is it's NAR. Football 50-10 of the hour. Every hour, we bring you the biggest stories across football. It's presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza.
No one goes all in on made-from-scratch freshness like Papa Murphy's. We go all in on quality. All in on craft. And on the Triple Pep Pizza, we go all in on pepperoni. Because when you go all in, people notice. Go all in with a limited-time Triple Pep Pizza, topped with 3 types of pepperoni for just $11.99. Papa Murphy's. Change the way you pizza.
Yeah, Papa Murphy's Pizza. Make sure you use the promo code Monty25, M-O-N-T-Y, Monty25 to get 25% off your purchase of $25 or more at Papa Murphy's Pizza. I'm telling you, download the app. Hell or high water, I'm getting Papa Murphy's Pizza tonight. We got completely derailed yesterday. We were supposed to get Papa Murphy's Pizza for Thursday night football and BYU, and it just did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
To tell you how much I love Papa Murphy's Pizza, I was so frustrated yesterday night.
Calm and not curse.
I'm like, dude, it's 5 o'clock. We're still doing what we're doing. We're never going to get Papa Murphy's Pizza.
It's frustrating.
I was so upset. Not that,
Yeah.
I just miss Papa Murphy's Pizza. By the way, Monday, I cannot wait to play the new Papa Murphy's commercials on Monday.
Yeah, they're awesome.
It's amazing.
They're awesome.
Monday, by the way, right here on the show, we will also announce a brand new partner on the show. I'm really excited about that. It is a really good deal for you guys. It is another local business that you guys can utilize on a daily basis. So look for that on Monday morning, as well as the new Papa Murphy spot, which I'm totally stoked about. But this show, every single day, is presented by the Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com. When you've been in an accident, you need somebody to fight for you because it's not your fault that you're injured. It's not your fault somebody ran that red light or ran into you or was distracted or knocked you off your motorcycle. But you do deserve an advocate to fight for you, because the thing that I've really taken seriously about accidents and injuries, please do not trust your insurance company, because they're not fighting for you. They're fighting for themselves. That's why you go to the Advocates. You never pay for a consultation. There are no big upfront retainers. No, you don't pay the Advocates until they win your case. Defer your medical bills, free consultations. And by the way, chat with them online. Go to their website, UtahAdvocates.com. The Advocates, the best injury attorneys in Utah, present the Monty Show. The biggest stories in sports this morning, I don't think there's any doubt. It is BYU beating Utah State. And listen, they got the win, but I don't think anybody that has watched this team all year is happy with the way that this team last night stopped the run against Utah State, because Utah State ran for 204 yards on BYU. And I think, Jake, if we're talking about all of the things that we're concerned about with BYU, by far my biggest concern with this football team right now is undisciplined actions, like, hey, lining up in the neutral zone. They're undisciplined football, and these decisions and the lack of discipline that allows Utah State to run for 200 yards.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, BYU just wasn't prepared last night. And I think that, the not being prepared, oddly enough, is not an excuse for lining up in the neutral zone or being offsides or whatever, whatever the nomenclature is for that specific penalty. Like, you have to be right mentally, and I think that that's what stood out to me last night. Like, yeah, clearly Utah State did something you weren't ready for, but that's not an excuse to have all those penalties and to play undisciplined football. And I think that, I don't know necessarily how you fix that, because it just feels like this team, I don't know what happens to this team leading up to games on game days, but they're just not, they don't have that gas early in games. They don't have that, like, tuned up, we're ready to go, we're going to come out and, like, punch you in the mouth type thing on the first possession. Like, they don't have that, vibe. They just don't. It feels like, hey, yeah, we're all right, boys. Here's the first possession. We got 10 scripted plays, and all of them are going to be behind the line of scrimmage, and we'll see you in the second half. Like, that's honest to God what the vibe is. It just feels conservative and not interested, and I don't know necessarily how to fix that. I mean, I have to imagine, obviously you can do some things with play calling in A-Rod's department. I got to believe that there's something within their process that's slowing them down early in games. Like it just has to get fixed, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's got to get fixed, and I think it will get fixed. I'm a big believer in Kalani Sitake. I think, I know I'm the only singular person in this state who believes in Tuiaki, but I think this coaching staff is very good. They're very senior. They're very experienced. They're going to get this figured out. Your linebackers, frankly, are too talented. I think you saw that with Thule and Bywater last night with the interceptions. Gabe Jeudy-Lally now is going to miss the first half of the Notre Dame game, which is going to be a loss.
That was a tough call, bro.
Yeah, I mean, that was a tough targeting call.
It was targeting, but it's a tough call because of the position you're putting the defender in.
Yeah, but you have to legislate those hits out of the game.
You have to.
I mean, you have to.
You have to.
If we learn anything from Tua Tagovailoa, you have to protect the player's head. I mean, you cannot be ear-holing guys. You cannot be leading with the crown of your helmet. Like, that's going to be a loss for this club, though. I mean, hopefully Malik Moore's back, but Gabe Jeudy-Lally has come in here, and he's really produced and performed. That's going to be a loss next week against Notre Dame. That much is for certain. Let's get your thoughts in here on BYU and Utah State last night. Mikkel Chase says, if BYU plays the way they did last night, there is no way we are winning next week. We need a new kicker. Yeah, well, that's something that is also very concerning. I mean,
yes.
Jake the Make ain't making a whole lot of kicks right now, and the couple that he missed last night were pretty chip shot. If we're being honest, I mean, Jake Oldroyd's a hell of a kicker, but Jake, I think it's mental for him right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that it is. When I watch kickers or really any athlete go through what he's going through, there's no real salvation for that athlete. You when you're just out of your groove, it's easy to say, like, hey, just get back to the fundamentals. Hey, get back to your technique. Like, get back to what allowed you to make kicks. But I can speak to this firsthand. Like, it's not just, hey, get back to your technique, because I'm sure he feels like he's executing his technique fine, but it's not going in. And the fact is if he's not going to be able to make kicks, you have to find someone else. And I know that sucks. I know that he has been incredibly consistent over his career, but right now he's not consistent. So whether we're talking about Christopher Brooks or Jake Oldroyd or who the hell ever, it's performance. You're either performing or you're not. And that just is what it is.
Yeah, and I think the thing that you have to remember is targeting is a very difficult call. And I saw everybody losing their minds on Twitter last night over the Max Tooley non-targeting call. You're not going to call every one of them targeting. That one they should have thrown a flag. Was it targeting? I don't know. Is it speeding if there's no cop there? It's not, right? So I think you're going to get 9 out of 10 flags on targeting plays.
Yeah.
But listen, it's one of those fouls that's got to be legislated out. And it's unfortunate that it happens to every team. There's no doubt. Utah State had a targeting ejection last night. I mean, it's just part of the game, and I think it's especially with concussions, the way they are now. I mean, obviously, I mean, you hope so. Mayor of Montytown. The mayor of Montytown is in. Says, good morning. Thanks for the promotion.
I don't know if that's the right mayor or not.
Hey, anything we can do to push Montytown, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Right? Neville93, good morning to you. Tom Basilius says, shouldn't be up for another half hour. Guess the victory is getting to see the start of the show.
There you go.
Truth.
There you go.
KJ Kenai Johnson, good morning. Top of the morning, he says. San Diego State Aztec. Hey, by the way, he followed me on Twitter now.
Whoa.
How about that? By the way, if you're here, all 100 of you, please give us a thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed to the channel, please do so. It really helps us grow. We're trying to get to 10,000 by the end of the year. We're right at 7,500. We can do it. I'm telling you, have your sister, your mom, your brother, your dad, have them get on board. Let's do this
trust me when I say we're not just asking for those because it just simply makes us money. We're probably less than 10 days away from a really big development on the show, so it helps.
Please subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Appreciate you guys being here. Charles Chamberlain says the worst part last night was the complete lack of discipline. Thule batting a million penalties. Kalani needs to spend the money and get a disciplinarian coach already. It's embarrassing. Yeah, I don't know about that.
I just think that these guys weren't I think it's a combination of things. So the first thing I'd say is it's never one thing. Like, I think part of it is that it was Utah State, and BYU knows they're probably 2-3 times better than Utah State. Like, that's just part of it, and you have to acknowledge that. But secondly,
sure,
I think that Max Thule has been inconsistent this season. He made play after play against Baylor. He looked like absolute garbage against Oregon. And then
I agree
these
with.
last two have been inconsistent. He's made plays. He had the pick six last night or whatever, but you also had the penalties. And so that's why I say, like, I think this team right now, here today, in the moment, is struggling to stay mentally focused at the task at hand. It feels like they are distracted, which leads to neutral zone infractions, which leads to 12 men on the field for defense. Like, there are just these little things that they're not executing
Lining
on.
up in the neutral zone is, I don't know how more simply to say it than you're just not paying attention. That's what that is. When when Batty has his helmet in the neutral zone, you're just not paying attention. And when you're consistently jumping offside, and you're doing that against a silent count, you're jumping offside against a silent count. So it's not like there's a clap, or a voice inflection. You're just undisciplined. That's the part that's hard to take.
Yeah.
When you're shooting yourself in the foot, that's the part that is very difficult to take. That's what I'm saying. Tom Basilius says, undefeated Weber State, respect my school.
Sir.
They're undefeated. Weber State is undefeated. Absolutely. Dave Heath says, I remember growing up, my pops was a huge BYU fan during the Luke Staley days.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing would happen back then. Seems like it never changes. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, it is. Listen, I think football doesn't change much. Undisciplined teams jump off sides, right? Like, I mean, if you can't stop the run, you can't win games. I just think when you see, it's the problem is good football teams are very disciplined. They're patterned. They
focus
They
on
don't
their
take
job.
10 penalties in a game. They don't miss assignments in against the run. You don't have, like sloppy gap protection. You just don't have that. And that's why the offensive line thing was so interesting to me. Like, Harris LeChance stole a dude's soul last night. Like, he cracked a guy.
He eats on that play, dude. The throwback to Jaron play, he absolutely eats, dude.
Well, against Wyoming, he was bowling for Cowboys in the end zone.
Seriously, dude.
Like, I mean, he pancaked a guy, and
I'll drop that mother.
And the rim shot, the rebound, the ricochet of that dude's body knocked over another Wyoming guy. Like, you have guys capable of doing the job. Why are we rotating the right side of the offensive line?
That to me was simply, and again, I'm just speculating, I don't know, but to me what it looked like is you were basically just mitigating injury risk. You were saying, hey, like, the offense is fine. Yeah, we're struggling in the run game a bit, but we're in a good enough place in this game where we can rotate guys and save ourselves, because they know the toughest part of their schedule is coming. Like, Kalani's very aware of that.
Yeah.
So I think that was basically a ploy at, hey, if we can keep the offensive line starters healthy and maybe take 10, 15 plays off their plate tonight, that, we'd feel a little better about that.
Yep. Sean Mirzinski says, watched Epps in high school. He's a real baller. Speaking of Cody Epps, our guys at CougConnect.com have a bunch of interviews with him. He's one of the guys that's on the rap song. Like, Cody Epps is a stud.
You're welcome.
I'm telling CougConnect.com. I'm telling you, go check it. Their content's exclusive with Cody, but you look at Cody Epps on the field, he's a baller. He has, since fall camp, I've been telling you, that's a guy that needs to break out, that needs to emerge.
Here's the deal. I'm the best there is.
And look, I understand, your number ones are clearly Puka and Gunner. I would think Isaac Rex would be in the top three.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously with Cosper breaking out, but Cody Epps is a guy that is showing you week in and week out. He understands how to run a route. He understands how to get himself in space. Jaron Hall clearly likes throwing him the ball. If I am A-Rod, I'm trying to get I am trying to get Cody Epps in more man coverage. I'm trying to get him in space a lot more because he's also pretty good after the catch too.
Having fun is the name of the game.
Yeah, I would absolutely be paying attention to that. Let's see. I see a lot of people commenting. I'm trying to get to all your comments. Appreciate you this morning as we talk about BYU knocking off Utah State. But what is your level of confidence in BYU? And, you know, when we talk about confidence and we talk about your level of confidence with BYU, I mean, really the question I'm asking you is, are you as confident in BYU as you were week one? Well, certainly you're probably not, right? I mean, certainly things change during a season, but as the injuries have mounted, I just see that quality, consistent play falling down a little bit. It's not an excuse. It's simply a reality.
Yeah.
And as you now head for this stretch of games we've all been looking forward to, and amazingly, it's October.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only question I ask you when it's October is, why have you not gotten to TryDayTrading.com/Monty? Like, that to me is the biggest question in BYU Nation right now.
Do you want to set up the meeting?
Why hasn't every BYU fan gone to TryDayTrading.com/Monty?
I don't know. Straightforward.
Stop grinding on your side hustle. Stop. Think about it this way. You're going to work today. How much do you love your job? How much do you hate your job? Why are you not going to do something to change that? Because day trading is an avenue for you to reach prosperity much quicker than you're doing it now, right? And if you're that guy who's got a good 9 to 5, but you're always side hustling, stop. Get off the wheel, man. If you're that guy that hates his gig and you're looking for a new job and you're looking for something different, get to TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Register for the free webinar. It's no obligation. You're simply going to watch the webinar and make a choice. But trust me when I say, go to TryDayTrading.com/Monty and watch that webinar with a mindset that your life is about to change, because it is. Day trading is a legitimate, lucrative way for you to provide for your family. And whether you're a single 25-year-old guy or a married with 4 kids and you're 47 years old and you're just tired of working for the man, get to TryDayTrading.com and understand that they're going to teach you, mentor you, and coach you to become one of the elite day traders in the industry and make the money that you and your family deserve. And you know that they're serious because when you're through the program at TryDay Trading and you're ready to start trading on live trades, you're going to do that with TryDay Trading's money. You're not going to do that with your own money. And that's the best part of it. They're so confident that they can make you a prolific day trader that they're going to give you their own money to trade. And when you make money with their money, they're going to split the profit with you 50-50. You just did nothing to make 50% of the profit with TryDayTrading.com's money. That to me speaks volumes about their program. And don't take my word for it. Go look at all of their actual students that go through the program and become day traders, and you'll see hundreds and hundreds of testimonials of people who've gone to TryDayTrading.com. They simply watched the free webinar and then dove in head first, and now they work for themselves. They're not grinding for a side hustle anymore. They're not taking the paycheck every other week. They work for themselves. It's freedom. It's prosperity. But it starts at TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Register for the free webinar. All right, 7:17. Let's get back talking BYU. Don't forget Harris LaChance joins the show coming up at 8:30. What is that, about an hour and 15 minutes or so?
Yeah, not soon enough.
Presented by our good friends at Papa Murphy's Pizza. It's almost October.
Yep.
I am almost giddy to play their spot next week.
Yes.
That's how excited about Papa Murphy's Pizza's October promotion that I am. I cannot wait. I am really excited about it. BYU wins last night, but does it? Here's the other thing I thought was interesting. Does the game last night feel like a win?
Not really.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay.
I mean, maybe in the program it does. Maybe, standing at, maybe for Harris with the wagon wheel it does. And I totally get it. I'm sure it feels great. But to me, in the big picture, when we're looking at the season, like, I don't know, man. It felt like BYU had a special season brewing, and now it kind of feels like it's just another season. It kind of feels like, well, you got your ass beat by Oregon, and we just haven't really had that bounce back, 65-10 win, where you just like light a team up and just dominate them, like that's what I feel like. That's what like yesterday on the show I said you should beat the living hell out of this Utah State team.
But is this Kalani too nice?
Yes.
Because one of the things we routinely talk about on this show is why they don't score 70 points when Idaho State comes to Provo.
Like I feel like there is it's too strong to say that Kalani doesn't care, obviously. I know he cares, but it should be a top priority for this team to be like pushing the top 10 in the AP, to be like dominating the conversation, and the only way you do that as an independent the year before you head into Big 12 conference play is to absolutely pound these teams. And I feel like when we talk about little things like lining up in the neutral zone or rotating a guy of Harris LaChance's ability and caliber on the right side of your offensive line.
Just complete lack of discipline.
Yeah.
The thing, and it's funny you bring that up too, because as far as Tuiaki goes, they're trying to run the football. I mean, there was no doubt Utah State, we broke the news on Twitter yesterday that Logan Bonner's career at Utah State is over. He is out for the year with a broken foot. You knew they were going to have to run the ball. You're still playing 3 up and 8 back.
Yeah, why are you in dime against the run?
Yeah, I don't know, but I think you're exactly right. I think this was probably a game where you were trying stuff out. I don't even have that much of a problem with that. Wow. I really don't. I mean, it is what it is.
It just makes me question. It makes me wonder, what is the goal in this program? What is the stated goal?
I think the stated goal right now is developing depth and playing quality football. Wow. And I think you can rotate guys. I would be stunned if Kingsley Suamataia missed a single snap against Notre Dame.
Well, yeah. I mean, Harris is going to play every snap he can.
I would be stunned. You're not going to rotate.
Will play every snap. Like, yeah, but my point is is it so? Are we saying that it's a situation where, the caliber of bowl game you get to doesn't necessarily matter as much as just getting to a bowl game?
I think that's exactly what it is. And you're not undefeated. You lost to Oregon, right? My guess is you're probably going to lose to Notre Dame, and I would think that you would beat Arkansas. Just a guess. You're probably a 2-loss team this year. I mean, when you look at what's left on their schedule, I don't think there is any question that their most difficult games are going to be on the road. I think when you look at where are you? Notre Dame, certainly. I think they're going to split those games, so they'll be, you're already 4-1. So my guess is at that point you're 5-2. I don't think Liberty on the road is going to be any cakewalk. I think East Carolina should be a win. Boise State. Ask San Diego State about Boise State tonight, right? I mean, Bachmeier's done at Boise. Yeah. You should win that game.
I'm not trying to be too hard on the program, man. I'm really not, but it's just so, like, the thing for me, and this is one of the biggest differences between BYU and Utah for me personally. When BYU is in the top 10 conversation, or like even top 15, and they're pushing the top 10, like when they're hot, when they're rolling, when they're getting victory after victory, there's like this palpable like momentum and like specialness about their program. For Utah, the thing I love about Utah is there's always some adversity in that program, and they're always overcoming. And somehow, some way, Witt always finds a way to get to that big-ass Rose Bowl level bowl game, And that's what I feel like is special about the Utah program. So when I see, Harris getting rotated out, or Kingsley getting rotated out, or lining up in the neutral zone, or like just this little stuff, I'm just like, dude, like why do we have 6 DBs in against the run? Why do we have, even if they're playing nickel against the run, I'd have a problem with it. Like, bring in the thumpers on first down.
Well, but you notice what happened in the second half.
Yeah.
You stopped rotating guys.
Yeah, we have a bite from Kalani talking about defensive adjustments. I mean, they did an interview on the field with them right after the game here where he's talking about like they had to make changes at the half.
Well, when we knew that they were going into this it's like it's more like a triple option type of look, and trying to run the ball with taking some shots. We had to make some adjustments, and it's hard to do that when you're right in the middle of the game, when we're trying to take away the option basically with the QB run game. So I had to change some things up at halftime, and I think second half the guys showed a lot better. But we probably should have anticipated this, but I don't know. They haven't shown this type of offense all year long, or even in the past with what they've done. So we got to change, and I thought second half the defense played a lot better.
There's Kalani Sitake on BYU TV after the game, and I think he's right. I mean, the second half you came out and you looked a lot more prepared, but these slow starts are a big concern for me. The lack of discipline, 10 penalties is a big concern for me. I mean, I don't know. Did you disrespect Utah State by rotating guys? And I have no idea.
What you did was, because it's never – so when BYU plays Utah State, with all due respect to Utah State, it's never about Utah State. Utah State could have the best possible team. They're still going to lose this game, and they should lose every single time. And the fact is that BYU should always have better talent, and that's just the reality of the situation.
Well, and I thought in the third quarter that talent showed out. I mean, Braden Cosper making that catch,
but
Jaron
as far as
with great
fast starts,
throws.
I mean, though, like you
you played yourself is what you did.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
that's the hard part.
You.
Yeah, that's the hard part. You played yourself by coming out in those rotations and playing slow football. That was really surprising.
But that said, you see the flip, and this is the conversation. You see, like Harris LaChance, not just because he comes on the show, but like because he's one of the most important parts of their offensive line. You see the flip when you come out early in the first half looking to establish the lead so you can have a comfortable end of this game. You see, hey, yeah, we're going to get the pile driver known as Harris LaChance out to the second level, and we're going to dominate some guys, and we're going to be able to run the football, and we're going to do some things. And it almost feels like it's just a mentality thing. Oh, the game's tight? Well, better turn that dial up because we gotta get into the end zone. Oh, we're playing Utah State at Lavelle? Yeah, no problem. No problem. We'll keep it on like a 2, and we'll just see how this thing plays out. Like, that's what it looks like to me.
We'll keep it on a 2.
Yeah, grease the ball bearings on that wagon wheel. It's ours.
Jeff Johnson says Kalani's not happy. These last few interviews, you can tell he's disappointed with his players.
I agree completely.
N Donut says stoked to have Dirk Cutter for OC at Boise State.
Boise.
How is Boise State a 6.5-point favorite tonight? Where's San Diego State Aztec? He's here. I know. I saw him. Let's see. Mike Maple says, LaChance, you have some splaining to do. Yep, that's 1 hour from right now. Harris LaChance will join us. Mike Chase, good morning to you. He says, need to establish a run game and get our run defense to actually stop the run. Frustrating.
Yes.
Provo Coug fan says, not too greedy. 10-2 is fantastic. 9-3 is great. Yes, 11-1 would be the best, but you really worry about is next year in the Big 12. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
I do too.
Yeah. Tanner Plummer says we should be hard on this program. They've been great for the last couple of years. Shouldn't we expect them to be great again? I'm with Jake. We need to be hard on this team. I don't agree that we need to be hard on this team.
I just think you have to be honest.
Yeah, it's not a, hey, let's be hard asses on BYU. It's a, hey, what did we see on the field last night? We saw a massive amount of stupidity. We saw a lack of defense. We saw a lack of discipline, a lack of football IQ, just a lack of understanding of what your job was. That's what infuriates me. I've watched a lot of football in my life, and you can always tell when a guy doesn't know his job. And not to point to him because he's on the show all the time, but Harris LaChance is a guy who you can say for certain knows his job. He knows which way he's got to turn his D lineman. He knows he's got to get to the second level. He understands. Like, the frustrating part for me is when you have, linebackers who are trying to do too much. I said this about Max Tooley against Oregon.
Yes, you did.
Max Tooley's trying to play hero ball on defense. You're not going to get a pick six every snap of the football, nor should you be trying to, right? I mean, sometimes just stepping into the gap to stop the run is fine. You don't need a tackle for loss, but don't give up 20 when you should have had him for a 2-yard gain, right? Like, those are the things, the basics that this team's not doing.
Yeah.
Last night, I thought Ben Bywater played pretty well. They threw the football to him. He caught it. It was a really important moment in that game, that interception, right?
Yeah.
But I look at the fact that they continue to do things like have defensive drives where they'll miss on one drive 3-4 tackles. That against Oregon, you look at Max Tooley running into other linebackers, like over pursuing, over aggressive, running into other linebackers.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't. Now, having said that, you can clean all of this up. You've got 10 days to get ready for Notre Dame, and you better clean this up.
I would expect a very prepared BYU football team for that game.
You would absolutely think so. San Diego State Aztecs said, who is going to score tonight? Are you surprised about this? I don't know. Maybe I'm making too much of it. Hank Bachmeier quit on the program at Boise this week. I mean, he just straight up walked away. He said, I'm out.
Yeah, he wants to go to the NFL, and he wants a better opportunity. I can respect that.
Are you surprised that San Diego State is a 6-point dog going to Boise when Boise got boat raced by UTEP last week? And the game that really stands out is Boise State was never in the Oregon State game.
Right.
They were never in that game.
Right.
Are you surprised by that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, losing your quarterback is, it's obviously a big deal. And so, I mean, I guess it is a little surprising that you said San Diego State's a 6-point dog?
Yeah, 6.5.
That is surprising. I mean, I could kind of see 3 just because, you're on the road like that. That's pretty standard business there. But I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, the boys in Vegas are pretty spot on with pretty much everything that they set. So I don't know really what to attribute that to. I guess I don't know what to say other than hey, you lost your quarterback, and we'll see.
We'll see what happens. I will be interested to see. Man, the numbers for San Diego State in that Toledo game were ugly. Braxton Burmeister, 13 of 24 for 65 yards.
Yeah.
That's your – I said 65 yards throwing. 65 yards. Okay.
Come on, man.
Fine. Good news is you ran for 2. I don't know. San Diego State's a huge disappointment this year.
Yeah.
With all due respect, San Diego State. I mean, they are a huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Kendall Dean, good morning to you, says D had a lot of missed tackles last night as well. Hanneman missed a key tackle for USU's first score. Yeah, they did.
And that's what I'm saying. Against a team like Utah State, Hanneman's missed tackle leads to a touchdown, but a lot of these other ones that didn't will lead to touchdowns for better teams. That's all they need to score.
Yeah, we'll see. I really hope that it's not playing down to your competition. I hate that phrase.
I don't know that we can definitively say that either yet because, you had a slow start against Oregon, had a slow start against Wyoming. You definitely had a slow start last night. This is not a just against Utah State thing, I mean, this has been a pattern for the last couple of weeks. And so the slow start thing, you see it in sports, pretty regularly.
Yep.
And I don't know, there's not a great way to fix it. Like with the Jazz. I mean, with the Jazz, we talked about it all season. Hey, they got out to a really slow start. They scored 8 points in the first quarter, and they're down 20 going into the second quarter. We've talked about that many times. And so I don't know how you fix it other than, as you always say, put your best players in position to do what best players do, which is make plays and put the football in the end zone. That to me is how you alleviate slow starts.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Speaking of slow starts, the Utah Utes. How about the Utah Utes, the Fighting Utes? They're an 11-point favorite hosting Oregon State tomorrow at noon.
Yeah.
What's your level of confidence? 1 to 5.
I'd say
Utah
probably
wins.
4.
That they're gonna win?
Yeah, because I think it's at Rice Eccles.
It is.
I think that it's
that they're gonna win.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I like them to win this game. I think that. Yeah, I'm not.
I like them to win the game, but I'm not 4 out of 5 that they're.
Well, what do you think is going to happen then? I mean, if you like them to win the game, then certainly if 5 is their undoubtedly, I guarantee they're going to win. 4 would be I feel pretty confident they're going to win.
Are you getting a defensive touchdown? Because obviously, I mean, the thing that everybody realizes is Oregon State lost to USC because they turned the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
But Oregon State had USC on the ropes in Corvallis. And probably
USC also doesn't have a defense.
Not probably. Well, that's very true.
Right? So to me, when you look at this matchup, the reason Oregon State was in that game and was close is because USC can't stop anybody, and USC is a team that plays a brand of football that's like, hey, we're just going to score more than you, and that's great. I'm not even saying that that's a bad way to play football.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it's very different than what Utah does. Utah is saying, hey, we're going to suffocate you defensively, and then we're going to look to put up probably 27 points. I mean, for the Ute offense, anytime they get to 27 points, they're probably winning the ball game, you know?
Utah is going to dominate this game up front because I think one of the big Achilles heels that Oregon State has shown is that they don't get in the backfield. They're not a pass rush team.
Yeah.
And I think if you're looking for Tavion Thomas to get out of the doghouse, this is probably the game it happens.
Keep it real.
You're keeping it real. Because you saw Tavion Thomas, essentially suspended for the first half of a game, and he came in and ran well, broke a touchdown string, didn't score a touchdown. I think this is a get-back game for Tavion Thomas, and I think this is one of those games where you make a statement. This is one of those games where if you're Utah, you've got to get back to Utes, right? I mean, you've got to get physical. You got to get after the quarterback. You've got to win the point of attack. And I think this is another opportunity where you're going to see that the Utah wide receivers will get out and have a game. I think the obvious storyline is Brant Kuithe not being in the lineup here.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to figure out, is Dalton Kincaid a number one? I think he is. Obviously, he's a hell of a talented tight end.
Well, I got to be honest. I don't think he has a choice. I mean, I think that he's the guy. The problem is that in the tight end room right now, you've got Dalton Kincaid, who's obviously gotten the lion's shares of reps with the guys who are in there, of course. And, everyone else in that room hasn't really had a ton of reps. So when I look at, Oregon State giving up I think it's 4.7 yards a carry on the ground, I think about Utah's offense, and I say, okay, well, let's just say that Tavion has a big game, averages 5 yards a carry. Let's call it 5 yards a carry. If he does 5 yards a carry, then I would think that the seam route for a tight end should be open, theoretically, because the linebackers are stepping up. Like, there should be some room there. So, to me, I'm not so worried about the tight ends. I'm worried about the run game a little bit and just how effective you need to be to have success. Because your defense, I think, is going to have a good day. But
you need 150 yards on the ground. I mean, ideally, you'd pass for 200 and run for 200. I mean, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But I don't know that happens.
I just think this is at Rice Eccles. Like, your defense is in a good place. Like, I'm not saying they're going to win this game handily. It's probably going to be a fight, no doubt about it. And it's hard for me to be like, yeah, Utah's going to lose at Rice Eccles. It's always difficult for me to say that.
Any team that's based in the run is going to have a tough time beating Utah.
Yeah.
I mean, they just are. I think Lander Barton is a hell of a football player, and I think he's a guy that is exploding. He's not evolving or emerging. That kid's exploding onto the national scene. I think he's one of the best linebackers in the Pac-12 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the leadership he's getting, he's filling that gap that Devin Lloyd left behind. And when you look at this game, I've seen the number as high as 14 points in favor of Utah. I much more prefer Utah in a 28-17, 28-20 game.
Yeah, I think it's one possession most of the game.
Yeah, I'm 2.5, 3 out of 5 that they win this game. I think that it's gonna be one up front, and I know that's a football cliche.
It's one in the trenches.
Yeah, we'll see. Tom Basilius agrees with you. He says Utah wins by 14.
Well, I never said Utah was winning by 14 plus. I just said that I think that they're gonna win. I feel confident they're gonna win.
Yep. And donuts or endo nuts. I just would prefer if we called you donuts because I would like a donut.
When's the last time you had a donut?
I don't know. I'm fat. Damn, I've become a creature of habit. I watch you guys in the morning now. Good show. Well, we appreciate you being here.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Norga Coog. See, I got the Norga Coog.
It used to be Norsh Coog, and then he was like, hey, asshole, it's a Norga Coog.
Yeah, so unlike the BYU defense, I've made the... Never mind.
Damn.
Norga Coog says Oregon State didn't have any problem running on Utah last year. Well...
Yeah,
things change.
So again, we'll see. And
I still believe, by the way, and I think we probably have all 37 Ute fans that have ever listened to this show, but Van Filliger still, to me, is one of the most important players on that defense.
X Factor.
I mean, when he's lit, when he's playing, and he's playing well, I love what he brings to the field, and I think you're only getting better. That secondary is still really good.
Yes.
I'm not worried about Oregon State running all over them. I'm not. It's, to me, anyway. Cam Harrison, good morning, guys. Shout out to Mo Bamba.
Mm-hmm.
Jake.
I'll get on finding that drop. I'm like
for
15 pages deep
He would like the Mo Bamba drop.
Yeah, well, I'll let you know when I got that. All right, thanks. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Shout out to Mobamba. It's a drop we used to play.
No, but I will with your wife.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
that was the wrong drop. My bad.
Was that the? Are you sure?
My bad. That wasn't the right drop. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Jake thinks
Oh
he's.
shit! Damn, I am tripping.
Yeah. See, Jake thinks he's funny.
I'm just trying to find the drop. I legit don't know where it is because I've had to switch computers and I'm working through some things and we got. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Yeah.
I'll just I'll fill the gap here, Jake.
I'm a man.
I know. Yeah. Thank
Throw
you.
some crickets in.
Yeah, that would be appropriate.
Shout to Mobamba.
Hey! There we go. Okay.
Good
All
job.
right.
Okay, we can move on. We can move on with the show now. James Knight says, "How's it going, lads?" I'm all right.
Friday.
It is Friday. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
About what?
Whatever you want to talk about.
I'm fucking tired. That's what I want to talk about. Like, you know what?
Folks, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's already a week from Monday.
Yeah.
Like, and I say this all the time. Like the weeks just go by so dang fast.
Y'all feel me?
And excuse my French. I'm trying. You know what? I'm really trying not to curse on this show anymore. Jake curses so much in the drops that I figure we've got that angle covered.
Yeah.
But you know, it just seems like the months are turning into weeks, which are turning into days. And I can't believe it's October. Like, I am almost just
I'm
dumb.
going to say this again.
Where did Hawaii go?
Yeah,
like a month ago, we were getting ready
dude.
to evacuate to Hawaii. Where did Hawaii go, right?
Yeah, dude.
I mean, it's remarkable to me that I am going to be 50 here. My wife is already 50. Like, life is just flying by. And I kid you not, this isn't even like a turn to a sponsor, but I look at things like opening this business and going all in and quitting Yelp, and it's crazy how much faster your life moves.
Yeah.
When you're making moves. I just feel like we hit the accelerator, and it's all good things. We're doing really well.
It's not a complaint, but I think
it's just
crazy. I think the fact is like, you talked about the Papa Murphy's thing or not, not being able to get pizza last night earlier. And that's a direct result of what happened.
So yesterday we had a plan. Like yesterday was going to be our light day, right? Like yesterday was going to be, we got to go over here.
One day a week, you got to have a light day.
Yeah, we're going to do this. We'll be home by noon. We'll get some lunch for my Mrs. Monty had a very busy day at work yesterday. Like, all right, we'll get her some lunch. We'll go to the gym. We'll come home.
We clear on that?
We'll get the Papa Murphy's. It'll be done by the time BYU kicks off. We'll watch Thursday night. No. We go to do the thing that was supposed to be like an hour, and it turned into 9 hours.
Is this the dagger?
And it's just like, damn, dude. And so my wife's crabby. We get home. Like, we're talking on the phone when I'm driving home yesterday. And she's like, what do you guys want for dinner? We're like, well, I'm not really hungry. She clearly wanted us to pick up something for dinner. We didn't. Like, it was just that day where you feel like crap because you were all out of sync. And it just, so my overarching point here is you got to stop working for anybody but yourself.
Yeah.
Because life just happens too fast.
Yeah.
Everything is moving so quickly, and we're making really good money and we're doing all this good stuff, but I'm telling you, man, you cannot get days back. It is, you know what? It's only Friday, September 30th, 2022 at 7:42 in the morning once.
Yeah, and I have to say, I mean, I'd rather feel this way than, again, with all due respect to everybody, I love you guys, but like, I would rather be doing this and burning my days this way than burning them sitting at a desk. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's and again, like not because they advertise on the show, but that's why I personally was excited about the Tri-Day thing, because it is actually, it's real. And
it is real.
And I think that it's just crazy. Like, you show up, doing, we can't give you specifics because we can't talk about it yet. What's happening? We can talk about it in like 8-9 days. Seriously, like. We're close to being able to talk about it, but the point is that yesterday we showed up expecting one thing, another thing happened, and then Thursday disappeared.
I will just go back to what I always say. If you're working for somebody else and you're like, man, okay, so let's see, today's the 30th, so overnight tonight I'm gonna get my paycheck, and I got to pay this bill and that bill, but I'm going to let this bill ride a little bit. Or if that's what your life is right now, if you're like, man, I'm so desperate to get out of this apartment, man, how am I going to pay my rent? You got to do something. Stop sitting on your hands and go do something. If you are having kids and you're like, dude, I have no idea how I'm going to pay for this. Hey, I can't make my car payment. Why are you doing that? It is amazing to me. Like we're gonna give away a pair of shoes today.
Two pairs of shoes.
I think this is where this comes into. Like we met a guy yesterday, that has like holes in his shoe.
He's a laborer. He works. He builds things. He
labors.
Yeah,
and
he labors.
It's just like everybody aspires for more than what they have, but they're not willing to like get out and do it.
Yeah.
If you're sitting here, and again, if you're planning out, you're budgeting your paycheck, and hey, but I got to go to work, and stop. Why? What are you doing? Why are you living that life? I am telling you, and hey, maybe that is your thing. Maybe your paycheck is your thing, and you're good with it. Okay, cool. You're in the 1%. But I'm telling you, 99% of people aspire for more. And if you are sitting on your hands and you're not willing to go out and earn more, that's a you problem, because the things like tri-day trading, they're out there. People like, the guys that own the Papa Murphy's Pizza, the ownership group that we work with, all these local businesses, Ryan at Tri-Day Trading.
The Papa Murphy's thing is a great example. I can't remember the specifics of the story he told us, but essentially the gist of it was that, the first store that he was able to open, he had to like sacrifice and like live out of his car and like,
But you know why he opened that first store? Because an opportunity presented itself. And I'm not going to, he's just one of the Papa Murphy's owners that we deal with, because all the Papa Murphy's they're not national. It's local guys. Their brand is national. It's local stores, right? So we deal with the local ownership group. And he was telling us his story. He's like, yeah, I was in college. And he was actually at Utah State, believe it or not. And he's like, yeah, there was a building open. It was an opportunity. And it was either stay in school or go and do this thing. So I went and did this thing. And that thing led me to this thing, led me to owning all these Papa Murphy's. And hey, I know this guy that owns all these wing nuts. And I know this guy that, that's how it happens. And you wind up making a decision that changes your life. And so if you're sitting on your hands and you don't know, like the next person that I ask, hey, what do you dream? What's your dream? What do you want to be? I don't know. I totally get that. Go to Tri-Day Trading. Go open a Papa Murphy's.
You just have to get to a point where you can get your time back.
And I think a lot of people don't recognize that time is money.
Yeah.
Because time is not infinite. Time is not, this is the Tua Tagovailoa story.
Yeah. He
has brain damage. How is he going to fix that? Oh, that's right. You can never fix that. Why is he playing football? Probably for the money. All the guys on Get Up this morning on ESPN were talking about, hey, I know I have brain damage. Like Rob Ninkovich was crying on Get Up this morning. It was crazy. Talking about how he had a concussion. And what his experience in this concussion was, hey, I got hit. I came back around, like I woke up and I was like, what's going on? What are we doing? Come on, let's go. We're playing a football game. He had no idea what happened. And they're like, hey, dude, you were out cold. He's like, nah, I'm fine. Let's go. And he's like, I think about that every day because I also was locker mates with Junior Seau, who eventually wound up committing suicide because of concussions.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't get those days back, dude. So if you're 15, 25, 35, 55, every day is a chance to change your life. And so the reason that we're talking about this and the reason I bring this back around is you're either going to sit here and complain about it or you're going to do something about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not telling you it's going to be easy, but you got to go and do something about it, because standing around and wasting your time is freedom. Time is opportunity. Because right now, what are you doing? You are doing what you have to do instead of what you want to be doing. Change your life and start doing the things you want to do instead of what you have to do.
I'm telling you, man, the Tri-Day thing is an opportunity. Our opportunity, we didn't have the Tri-Day thing available to us when we were jumping from Yelp. Our opportunity was, okay, we're tired of working at a desk. We know what we want to do, which is very fortunate in my opinion. And we essentially just had to save our money for a couple of years. That's literally what we did. And I'm telling you, the timeline is much shorter with the Tri-Day opportunity, and I think it's much shorter with a lot of opportunities. And I think it's scary to make the jump, but I'm telling you, and the genesis of this whole conversation that we're having right now is that yesterday, an opportunity presented itself. We saw a kid who, loves our Jordans that we had on yesterday and happens to wear the same shoe size that I do. And I happen to own quite a few pairs of Jordans, which means I have an opportunity to inspire the kid by giving him a pair of Jordans. And that's the whole point of it. I wouldn't be able to have this opportunity if we hadn't made the jump. And that, to me, is the significant part.
Yeah. Tanner Plummer says, I'm curious, since you guys quit Yelp, what do you guys do during your days now? Many things. We run our business. We sell our show. We do things we can't tell you about because we don't want to go to jail. No, I'm kidding. We'll tell you what we do during the day now. In less than probably a week or so. We'll tell you what we're doing. Whether, the main thing is good to go or not, I don't know at that point, but we're going to try. Norga Coog says, the older you get, the faster life goes. Jeez.
Yes.
If I knew that at 25, and it's the old saying, if I knew what I knew, then, if I knew then what I know now, I'd be a weapon. KTMS, K the Monty Show Radio. Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Brent Burnett says shoes. Exactly right.
Yeah.
San Diego State Aztec says, my wife says every so often, you can't remember the 90s. I was so immersed in building my book of business in the investment world. Retired from that now for like the last 5 years. Nice. Congratulations. Jeff Johnson, you should do a segment on working for yourselves and how you still plan for retirement benefits, investments to take care of you after you retire. That's the most intimidating for most. Well,
yeah, you want me to be blunt with you? I don't have retirement. I don't have a plan, long-term plan yet. I'm not there yet in the process. The process
it is
for me
a process.
The process right now, and again, this is the fascinating thing. I knew, working at Yelp, great example, another motivating factor for me to want to leave Yelp was I knew that even making 150, 175 a year conservatively, that wasn't enough. That's not enough in today's world to live comfortably and do everything you want to do. And so what I said was, okay, I'm a believer in the abundance mindset and not the scarcity mindset, which basically just means that it's, hey, I need to save a bunch of money versus how do we make more money? I'm not about the, hey, I need to save money. I'm about, I want to make more money. So how do I get in that?
If you think about the money we walked away from at Yelp, I mean, it's intimidating. It is intimidating. Benefits, stocks. I mean, I walked away from over $300,000 at Yelp.
Yeah, and the thing is but it's not about the money per se. It's about the fact that you're sitting there being a machine for somebody else's business. And I'm telling you, man, whether you agree or not, I'm telling you the truth is that everyone deserves to do what they want to do. The problem is that we just get ingratiated into, okay, you're going to school, you're getting a job, you're buying a house, and that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what 9 out of 10 people's lives are. And I'm telling you, man, you can do it differently. You can literally, whether it's tridaytrading.com/Monty, I would encourage you to look at that opportunity. But if it's that, or if it's another thing, find your thing. And get out of giving 10 hours a day to someone else, bro.
Big Mugama said, I feel you, Mount, went through a realization last year, spending a lot more time with my parents as they age. I say no to others, taking my time a lot easier now. That's the thing.
Yeah, dude.
People don't understand that learning to say no is a life hack. And it is, truly. A couple more because I know we got to get to football. 50 here. Jeff Johnson says, Monty, how about Deebo Samuel being picked up by Jordan? That's legit. It is legit. Tom Basilius says, Monty, up to something exciting to see. We are. Tom Basilius says, not selling out the independents, I hope. Never. Derek says, how are you guys making so much money for Yelp? Arguably, I was the number one sales rep. Not even arguably. A lot of months I was the number one local sales rep at Yelp in the entire company. I did quite well at Yelp, like really well. But I agree with you. It's the abundance mindset. It wasn't enough. Because when you start realizing how much time, I gave away 9 hours of my life every day to Yelp for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what I could do with 9 hours if I got that back. That's what we're doing. And what we're doing is Football 50, 10 of the hour. Every hour on the Monty Show, we bring you the biggest stories in football. I don't think there's any doubt today that the biggest story in football is this Tua Tagovailoa. How many mispronunciations of his name has there been today? It's crazy to me what Tua Tagovailoa is going through, and it's just completely unnecessary.
Dude, the concept you explained about not even knowing that you got knocked out and when you wake up is gnar.
So, Tua Tagovailoa last night, and I'm careful and I'm measured on this because I don't know for a fact he had a concussion Sunday. But if you listen to all the experts, and I was tweeting with a neurologist last night, and he was saying there's no question Sunday he had a concussion, and I agree with that. He, in my opinion, Tua Tagovailoa just suffered his second concussion in 4 days. Every time you have a concussion like that, it's worse the next time. Like I was DMing with Ryan Clark last night, the ESPN guy who was somebody I knew a little bit when I worked at ESPN, and he was saying that his second concussion, he just couldn't function. He had 2 concussions in 4 weeks, and he couldn't function. Tua Tagovailoa had 2 concussions in 4 days. And last night on the field, he got slammed to the side, like in a whiplash motion, and he hit his head on the turf, and his brain seized up. And how you know that is, like, his fingers were all distorted. Don't go watch it, please. I'm asking you actually not to watch it. We're not playing the highlight intentionally because you don't need to see it.
Yeah.
His body, his brain seized up. And the thing that infuriates me is listening to his coach after the game, Mike McDaniels. Listen to the last line of this press conference last night.
That was an emotional moment. That is not part of the deal that anyone signs up for, even though you know it's a possibility in football to have something that you have to get taken off on a stretcher. Is, all of his teammates, myself, we were all very, very concerned. So the best news that we could get is that everything is checked out, that he didn't have anything more serious than a concussion. He'll be flying back with us here on the plane.
He didn't have anything more serious than a concussion. Well, thank God it was only, a concussion.
We're not talking about a sprained ankle, bro. We're not talking about a torn ACL.
And that's the hard thing to take. And I just don't feel like the NFL cares. I don't feel like they take it seriously. I don't feel like it's life and death for them. I feel like it's like, oh, he just had a concussion, is what it is.
Yeah, things happen in the league.
Yeah. It happens. What are you going to do? No, that's not how it's got to be. And it drives me crazy that we're at a point where for 100 years we've known this now. Generations of football players have died unnecessarily. Like you look at Steve Mongo McMichael, who's dealing with ALS right now that most people believe is tied to concussions. You look at what guys like Junior Seau, Dave Duerson, all these NFL legends that have committed suicide because of brain damage. And I just say to myself, at what point are we going to do something tangible and real to protect football players and their brains? And I don't know if you can. I don't think
there's anything they can do.
The athlete's getting bigger and faster and stronger, and you just hear a coach say, well, at least he didn't have anything more serious than a concussion.
What do you mean?
That's 2 concussions in 4 days. 4 days. 2 concussions where the first one he had, by some accounts, the people, the neurologists that tweet about this stuff, you could see he was dizzy and not all there. Last night he was out cold. And they say, like, The people who've been out cold say you just wake up and you have no idea that you just lost 5 minutes of your life. You're essentially comatose. You're out. Well, thank God it was only that he was comatose and out cold and in a brain seizure. Thankfully, it was nothing more worse than that.
Like,
my God.
Yeah.
I'm so upset.
Yeah.
About, like, it's so upsetting. And the funny thing is, my wife is watching the game on her phone.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because we're watching BYU and Mrs. Monty's watching the stream on her phone. And it's just like I'm sitting there the whole time thinking, I just have no interest in the NFL right now. Like, I'm so pissed about this thing and the continuing, like, just writing off these guys as though they're not humans. They're commodities. They're just robots, right? Okay, well, the game's over. All right, let's go hang Tua up in his little charging station. Like, that's what it feels like. And they're like, oh, well, he flew back on the plane with the team, so everything's fine. Like it's not fine.
Yeah.
It's not fine. What do you say to this guy's kids when he's older? What do you say to this guy's
when
wife
he's
and
dead
his family?
At 50. When he's dead at 50.
What do you say when he develops Parkinson's disease or he develops ALS and it's like, oh, well, you know what? At least he only had a concussion then. No, what do you say then? That's the hard part. And you know what sucks? Now we're talking football and it's all negative.
Yes.
It's all negative.
Yep.
And it just, like, I love football. I'm such a passionate Bears fan. But it just takes some of my verve away for it because I know what's happening. Football 50, 10 to the hour, every hour on the Monty Show, presented by Papa Murphy's Pizza.
No one goes all in on made-from-scratch freshness like Papa Murphy's. Because when you go all in, people notice. Go all in with the Triple Pet Pizza for just $11.99. Papa Murphy's. Change the way you pizza.
Yeah, super stoked. Papa Murphy's Pizza. Order it this weekend and then get ready because you're going to order it next weekend too. The October promotion at Papa Murphy's Pizza.
Bomb.
It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. And my wife is a huge Halloweener.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just...
Okay.
And
dude,
my dog
bro.
is now vomiting in the background again, I think. But I think I just called my wife a wiener. I believe I did that. A Halloweener.
Okay.
Okay. All right, that's fine. You
know.
know.
What
But my wife is a huge fan of Halloween. A huge fan. Yeah, let's talk about this Tua Tagovailoa thing. Here on the Monty Show, presented by the Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com. I want to have an open, honest discussion with you. And the question I would ask you is, do you guys lose passion for the game when you see something like the Tua incident last night? Because I do. Honestly, I do. And I look at all these other situations. Injuries are a part of every major sport. You see broken legs, not just in the NFL, but in basketball. You see them in baseball. Injuries are a part of the games. Being a professional athlete comes with pain. That kind of pain to me is just different. And I don't know.
What is Tom saying? Tom's talking about
Here?
how he had, there's one above that too, where he said he had multiple concussions, I think.
I don't know. I have no idea. Tom Basilius, apparently Tua cleared concussion protocol on the field and then was questionable for back and ankle for the game. Well, what they're saying is that the injury last Sunday, 4 days before this Thursday night game, was a back injury. He was having back spasms. It had nothing to do with his head. But, Tom, here's the problem I have with that. The problem I have with that is that when you look at the injury Sunday, why is he shaking? He immediately, when he falls backwards and hits his head, what's the first thing that he did? He grabbed his face mask. And when you grab your face mask like that, it's because your head's ringing. You can't, what it's been described to me by, at this point, probably 30, 40 football players. There are certain hits that happen multiple times a game where you'll run your face into another player and you just have this loud ringing sensation in your head. And it goes away quickly, but when it's happening, it's so loud in your head. And your reaction is to fix your helmet, and it's something that I imagine all football players go through.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
I want nothing to do with that.
So when you see Tua grab his head and then he stands up and he immediately almost falls over, and then he's shaking you see Tua on Sunday shaking his head several times. His linemen are having to hold him up. Have you ever had a back injury where you are swaying back and forth and you're shaking your head? I've had back spasms before, and granted, I don't have back issues, so I can't specifically speak to it. But I've known people with back injuries, and I've never seen them act like they have a concussion because of a back injury.
Yeah, dude. The only reason we're talking about the back thing is because they brought it up. The dude had every visible sign of a concussion, and this is the problem that I have with the whole thing. Like, if we really dig into this, the only people saying he didn't have a concussion Sunday is the organization. They're claiming he passed concussion protocol. That is a claim, in my opinion. That is not substantiated by science. Yeah. I don't have a signed affidavit report from that neurologist. I don't have anything that says, yeah, he definitely did.
Well, and they are investigating this, and I want to be clear about this because I think this is something, as we talk about Tua Tagovailoa here on the Monty Show, presented by the Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com. This is something that I think is really important for you to understand. The NFL has a negotiated concussion protocol. It's in the contract between the players and the NFL owners. That protocol is very simple. There are 2 third-party officials at every game. In the box upstairs, they have the ability to stop the game to take a player out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
On the field, and every team has one, there is an independent neurologist who makes the decision on the player. And what you're going to see is that neurologist will take the player into the tent, and then if they believe that there are larger issues, they will take them back to the locker room. They will evaluate them through a series of tests, and that independent third party is going to make a decision on whether that player comes back into the game. The Miami Dolphins are saying they went through that process and Tua was cleared to return to the game. I find that hard to believe. I'm not saying they're lying. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I am not a doctor. But if you look on my Twitter feed, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show, you'll see that I follow several neurologists. And these neurologists are always tweeting about concussions because this specific group of neurologists take it very seriously. It's life and death to them. Oh, that's right. It's life and death to the football player as well. And nobody believes that situation last Sunday was a back injury.
No.
Nobody believes that. So was that followed? That concussion protocol followed? I don't know. The NFLPA has started an investigation that the league is cooperating with.
But here's my thing. The Dolphins are not some up-and-up organization, right?
They have not historically been. Stephen Ross has not historically been.
So to me, when I think about this whole situation, would anyone be surprised if somehow there was a lapse or whatever word you want to use? Somehow there was a happening that allowed him to get back in the game. Would anyone be surprised by that? I wouldn't. And so to me, I'm not taking them at their word. I think there needs to be definitive proof that he passed. Because if he did pass, then the conversation shifts from the Dolphins having any wrongdoing to, hey, the standard negotiated between the players and the owners is clearly not enough.
Yeah.
And that's an important distinction.
I just think about his family. I think about his...
Yeah, when he's laying on the field and his fingers are twisted and he's wilting, yeah, that's what I think about. That his life expectancy probably just shortened quite a bit.
Yeah, that's really difficult for me. Yeah, that's yeah. No. Let's see. Brent Burnett says, sounds like Congress investigating. What a joke.
Yeah.
Fat Jesus says, this isn't just the NFL. It's a lifetime of playing football. Every game is added risk for concussion. If you care about the players so much, why do you advocate for expanding the college football playoff?
What does expanding the college football playoff have to do with anything? Those guys are still playing games.
It's more practices and games. There's no doubt about that. But let's be honest about what football does to you. I mean, it starts when you're a kid. And every time there is significant research that says every time that an adolescent runs his face into another playing football, it's a concussion. Because kids just don't have the brain development at that point to protect themselves.
Yeah.
It starts in Pop Warner, but it goes through your 7th and 8th grade, your high school, your college, and it's not just games, it's practices, it's workouts. I can tell you, it's the toll that it takes. I remember a certain offensive lineman when I worked in St. Louis saying that he telling me he always had headaches. I always have a headache. I know football players that have ringing in one ear or the other constantly. You hear about, it's interesting. The Alex Smith story was brought up to me the other day about how, but Alex doesn't walk with a limp. But there are guys who have ringing in their ears for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
And I can't disagree with that.
That's one of the worst leg breaks the league's ever seen, and the guy is 100% today.
But as a parent, I never let Jake play football.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, Jake is actually my son, and I never let him play football. And, when going to high school in Southern California, you had a gym teacher that routinely, kicked you out of gym class one day because you said you wouldn't play football because he was the football coach.
Mm-hmm.
I just made that decision. And I don't know. I don't know how as a parent you justify that, but it is what it is. And these hats that you see NFL players wearing now, I don't want to wear that. It makes me look stupid. Well, what's the difference? You either look stupid or you'll be stupid from brain damage. So are we not going to wear the hat? Or, they're talking about how concussions are almost totally removed from the practice environment because of wearing those hats. They're talking about integrating those hats to the inside technology of a football helmet.
And that's where my mind goes. The technology of helmets has to go further. I understand that right now, they're working on the helmet. But here's my thought. Human beings, human beings are incredibly intelligent. We can create basically anything we want to create if we want to create it bad enough. And to me, that's where the whole thing about what is the league doing? What are we doing about this?
Yeah.
To me, the priority has to be helmet technology because the game's not going anywhere. You can bet your ass on that. This game isn't going anywhere, but these guys are. And so at some point there has to be you got to put a stop to it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Monty in the Morning, presented by the Advocates, UtahAdvocates.com.
You've been in an accident and now you're injured. Though it wasn't your fault, you now have to deal with getting your car fixed, mounting medical bills, and insurance companies who don't play fair. But don't worry. The experienced team at the Advocates are here to get you the support you need.
There you go, UtahAdvocates.com, the best injury attorneys in the business. Chat with them for free right now online at UtahAdvocates.com. Let's get your thoughts in here. Kenai Johnson says, I think Miami knows they messed up with this situation. I don't know how you don't. Right? I really don't know how you don't. I don't know, man. I don't know how do you punish Miami? You'll never know.
But
you'll never know.
Exactly. And that's my point. I'm certainly not saying that, there should be video evidence that's released to the public about Tua's behind the scenes, once he went back to the locker room and everything, about that whole process. But what I am saying is that whole process should be videoed, and there should be video documentation that he passed, because you have to be able to see it. This is what I always say about the NFL. If there's not video, you're effed. You're not proving anything. If the video of Kareem Hunt kicking somebody never came out, he never would have been disciplined.
Ray Rice.
But it did. Ray Rice. It did come out, and he was disciplined. So my problem here is nothing is going to happen to help future Tua situations. And that's what
What do you want to happen?
I want better helmet technology. I want transparency in all things NFL. I want, hey, here is a room that has video, and this is where we're doing it. Because we need to have evidence. We need to have documentation. Because, again, think about it. In all things life, if there's not video evidence, what good is it, right? Did you run the light if the camera didn't catch you? No, I guess you didn't, did you? Right? Did the Dolphins miss on this situation if there's not video evidence? Well, apparently not. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it seems like every time we're talking about NFL issues or NFL happenings, if there's no video, nothing happened.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I just don't know how you fix it. I really don't know how you fix it. I don't know what you do to fix it. I just think that there's so much. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Zaman said the issue with the NFL is they make so much money. They are now valuing dollars over souls. I agree with that. Kanai says, I don't believe he passed. Miami hasn't been talked about like this since Ace Ventura: Pet Detective with Dan Marino.
Yeah.
Probably. There's a big discussion about where you get more injuries, basketball or football. Like basketball, I hurt my knee playing basketball a month ago.
And I think this is a really interesting conversation because I don't think it's a conversation about how many injuries. I think it's a conversation about the type of injury. Like football injuries to the brain specifically are unfixable. There is no, we'll tape up your brain and it'll feel better in a week. There is no, hey, by the way, when you get a concussion, your brain is bleeding. So, we'll put a Band-Aid on that and then you'll feel better. We don't have that option. And so, like in basketball, let's say, torn Achilles, torn ligaments is much more prevalent in the NBA because of obvious reasons. You're essentially just running up and down like the whole time. So to me, I don't think we should be talking about how many injuries. I think we should be talking about the type of injuries and the long-term impacts of that because the best players the game has ever seen in the NBA, a ton of them had major injuries. Kobe tore his Achilles late in his career and came back. Kevin Durant, torn Achilles. Like, major guys and names in the league have torn ACLs and broken hands and all of it, and they're fine.
Yeah, I think it's what they were joking about on ESPN the other day. You can't take ginkgo biloba and think your concussions are going to be fixed. Right? Like, this is not aspirin for a back injury, and that I think is a great example. If he had a back injury, okay, let's take some Advil, we'll feel better. Okay, well, what do we do for brain injuries? We don't. There's no way to fix that, and I know I keep saying that, but I just can't get over that, man. And that to me is the real difference maker, truly. Go Black 45 says, I just like the whole just play through the pain crowd when 90% have never played past Pee Wee football. I'm telling you now, football hurts.
Yeah,
I don't know any other way to say this, and I'll ask Karis about this, but football hurts. Every day football hurts. There's no spinning that. There's no sugarcoating that. Every single day that you play football as your existence, you're in pain. Whether that's, that hit rocked me, man. That my shoulder hurts. I know so many former football players that are like, my ankle hurts. Like Doug Plank's a guy that Jake and I were around quite a bit in Phoenix, the former Bear linebacker. He had all kinds of incidents. He had, like, I want to say he had a thing with his collarbone where his collarbone didn't function normally because of football.
Can you imagine the 80s in the NFL?
Oh my God!
Like,
but think about AstroTurf.
Yeah,
think about AstroTurf, and we've come so far with turf technology, and still this synthetic field turf it's not better. It's not better. But if you think about what those guys played on in the 70s and 80s at Soldier Field or Three Rivers Stadium, they literally played on a piece of carpet over concrete. That's what they played on, and we were all fine with that. Imagine hitting your head on concrete 5 times a day. No, man, I'm good. Like, I can't even imagine the old guy in the NFL. I can't even imagine it.
It irks me, dude.
Oh, I can't even imagine it. James Knight says, our AFL players, the Australian Football League, which is rugby. Mrs. Monty's a huge AFL fan.
Yeah, it's a great product.
Yeah, we went and saw rugby league and AFL in Australia when we were there, and I thought it was great.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it, and we went to Brisbane, and it was a lot of fun. Our AFL players do not wear helmets, but doctors suggested a helmet only protects the external part of your skull. Your brain shakes like a tumble dryer. Yeah, dude. That's exactly right. Ruff's official says the player is deciding to play. They're not being forced. Well, I mean, there's a lot of guys.
We didn't even need to acknowledge that comment.
Yeah, Jeremy Severai says, having had multiple concussions, it really messes with you. It has affected my mental health in ways I still don't know about. Well, I mean, if you look at depression, anxiety rates are massive amongst those who suffer concussions.
Do you see what we're really saying here with all these different examples? Like that's a perfect comment from Jeremy. Like what we're really saying about brain injuries is we don't understand them fully and we don't know how to fix them. That's what we're really saying.
That is what we're saying.
Yet we're still willing to send these people out and do it.
It's hard. It is, and we'll ask Harris LaChance about this. He's coming up in 10 minutes here to talk BYU and Utah State, and I will ask him, what does your body feel like? 12 hours ago, you were wearing a football helmet. How do you feel today? Like, what is that? What is the toll that football? Because remember, Harris is now a dad. Harris is a husband.
How much does Harris LaChance think about the long-term impacts of football?
Yeah, I'm curious about that. I mean, he's a young guy.
I mean, I have to think as a football player, you consider that. And again, the mission isn't to talk negatively about the game. It obviously is a great game, but the health impacts are just substantial, man.
Look at San Diego State Aztec making a great point again. Playing a road game at the Astrodome in Houston. Bad enough, right? Like playing on AstroTurf concrete. You get it. Then having to try and tackle Earl Campbell.
Yeah, dude.
Good luck. Good luck. Man, Zayman says helmets give you confidence. That's why AFL and rugby, et cetera, see far less concussions. Well, they don't see far less concussions, actually. And one of the things that rugby players will tell you, I want to say there was a feature about this. Maybe on Vice News. My wife watches Vice all the time. And I want to say there was a concussion thing. Wasn't there a rugby concussion thing?
I don't know, man.
On Vice. We watched something sometime that was talking about the mental health of rugby players. And it's not good. Like the depression and the anxiety. The problem in like the AFL and rugby, global rugby is it's so underreported. It is so underreported. Because you're constantly hitting your head in rugby. Constantly. Yeah, it's crazy. No, Brent Burnett says ban football and we'll get more of it. I just think banning football is not probably the right way to go. But this is
an easy.
It is, but I also think this is why you have to have targeting rules in football. You have to.
I think this comes down to helmet technology. The more I think about this, the more I say like, hey, dude, and dogs are all pissed off about it too.
My dog wants football banned.
Yeah, dude, I get it. But my point is like, helmet technology, there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to build a product of a helmet that can mitigate this stuff. You're telling me that we can't design a helmet for games and really for anytime you're on the field that basically alleviates the possibility of a concussion. There has to be a way to do that.
James Knight says, so guys, we have NRL, which is rugby league, right? We saw them both in Brisbane. We went to
the Lions.
Was it the Lions?
I think.
Yeah, we went and saw both in Brisbane. I much more prefer rugby league, although AFL is so much faster, it feels like. I mean, it's just a different thing. Exploring with Ben and Sam. Okay. I'm a bit behind on the show, but yeah, concussions mess with you in ways we don't understand. I had like 6 or 7 from the military. Oh, thank you for your service. Appreciate that. And a few car wrecks. Honestly, we don't know how it changes us. Well, I can tell you I had the worst concussion I ever had was a car accident. And it was 1994 or something like that. Good old Vernon Hills, Illinois. I was driving a Geostorm at the time. I got rear-ended by a pot-smoking teenager.
Uh-huh.
And my neck to this day is still not right from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you hit your face on an airbag. Yeah, you'll never forget that. Like it is, you get airbagged. Ooh, not good. Zayman says, last show I watched, they said without a helmet, your tackle form is way better, but you're probably right, Monty. Well, yeah, because you're protecting your face.
Yeah, I mean, I think the concept
I would agree with that.
The concept of not wearing helmets and that sort of slowing players down and making players like just naturally, avoid the head-to-head, lead with the crown of your helmet stuff. I think that probably does play out, but again, I don't know why I'm stuck on this point. I just can't believe that we can build self-driving cars but can't build a helmet that protects human beings' brain on a football field. I can't believe that.
The body is amazing, and it has very little vulnerability physically. The things it can do physically are amazing. Protecting your brain.
Yeah.
We don't have a technology for that. James says, if you suffer a concussion in the AFL, it's a 10-day mandatory layoff. Maybe that's how it should be. Harris LeChance coming up in about 6.5 minutes. And yeah, I see a lot of people talking about BYU, and I think certainly coming out of this game last night, BYU wins 38-26. They're now 4-1 and 3-0 at home. What's your level of confidence with BYU football right now?
I mean, I'm confident that they can start playing more disciplined football, that they can, put a better product on the field as a team, but I don't love what I'm seeing. I don't love the penalties. I don't love I don't love the nature of the penalties, the neutral zone infraction, and just these penalties that shouldn't happen. They should be avoided. And then I combine that with the inconsistencies in the tackling game out of guys like Max Tooley or whoever you want to look at. Like, I just feel like they're not 100% plugged in right now. That's what I feel like. I feel like it's nothing more than they're not 100% focused in on the task at hand. I feel like there's another layer maybe or element or something that is at play that is basically just keeping them from locking down. Because the team I saw against USF is definitely not the team I'm seeing against Wyoming and Utah State. And I think, the reason you lost so big to Oregon was because you just weren't ready. You just were not plugged in and, assignment sound and being where you were supposed to be, which is why you have the Max Tooley over pursuit, why you have these different happenings. So when you combine what the players, basically, in my opinion, the players being distracted with this concept of playing dime against the run, it's not a recipe for success. I think the offensive side of the ball is largely fine. I think you're seeing improvements. You've got guys who are role players who are now stepping up. You've got you're starting to figure out your backfield, in my opinion. I would love for Kalani to just come out and say that Miles is the guy. I would love that, and then have dude be the backup, like Christopher Brooks be your end zone guy, be your thumper, the guy that you give to punch it in from 1 yard out. But we'll see. My point just is I don't think this team is falling apart or anything. I think they're just not dialed in right now for whatever reason, and that's a frustrating thing to have to say, because it's not as simple as, hey, make the tackle. It's not as simple as, don't have 12 guys on the field for defense when Utah State's playing tempo. And so to me, there's just not an easy fix. That's the frustrating part about it.
Yeah, and I think the hard part is that you're seeing, and this is something you talked about before, though. You're seeing that I think it's not a lack of killer instinct, but you certainly would love to see BYU, be more aggressive against lesser opponents. And I'm just curious, how do they fix these slow starts?
Yeah, I don't know. My feeling is that it is a mentality thing. I think that instead of the mentality being, we're going to rotate guys like Harris and whoever you want to point to, we're going to rotate our number ones out for 10, 15 plays less this game because we want to mitigate injury risk. Totally understand the logic, but I think instead of rotating them out throughout the game, let's just stomp Utah State in the first half and have like a 30-point lead going to the second half and then take them out in the second half. That to me, like, I know it's sort of a philosophical thing, but that's how I'd go about it, because then to me, it's easier for an athlete to say, okay, I know our mission is just to pound these guys for the first, half, and we're going to go out and we're just going to steamroll people and do what we do. And then in the second half, I know that, hey, maybe I'll see some action, but if we're up by 30 or if we're up by 25 or whatever, if it's comfortable, then I'm not going to see much action in that game. To me, as an athlete, that's easier. To me, as an athlete, it's easier to get up for the first half. It's easier to chill out in the second half. Like, I just think it's a mentality thing that you have to execute on as a football team. That's just my opinion. I'm not Kalani Sitake. Obviously, I'm not a college football head coach. But to me, it doesn't make sense to rotate guys in and out for whatever in a rhythm or a strategy or a scheme.
Yeah,
I'd rather just have the mentality of going out and kicking someone's ass and then taking the second half off.
Well, and I think a lot of people would say, oh, yeah, that's what we should do. But I think it's more difficult than that. And I think part of the challenge of being independent is you have these wild swings in your schedule, where you're going from Oregon to Wyoming and Utah State to Notre Dame and Arkansas. And I think it is hard to consistently be I don't know what's the right way to say it. To consistently be up for every opponent, to be amped for every opponent is very difficult. My guess is when we watch BYU hit the turf at Allegiant Stadium, coming up next Saturday, my guess is we're going to see an amped football team.
Yeah.
Now, is that the same amped football team that we saw, when you were at Oregon? Hopefully not, because I don't think being amped at Autzen Stadium was exactly the right recipe, for BYU. And I think that you have to, if you are Kalani Sitake, you have to find the balance on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah, but I think that's why the old cliche, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing it, and I'm kind of tired of saying it, but the cliche of like everyone just needs to do their job is so true, because let's see, ESPN is out here having some fun here.
ESPN is out here playing some highlights or something.
If you just click that little there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. My point is that the everyone do your job thing is the reason that's so prolific in sports is because if Harris LaChance executes on his block and then the rest of his line mates execute on their blocks, that's opening up gaps. And Miles Davis against the linebacker, I like my odds. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that to me is why that's such a relevant saying specifically in football, because you do need all 11 guys to do their job. Because if the offensive line doesn't give Jaron 4 seconds, then he's not going to be the Jaron we all know and love. So my point just is that I don't think this team is falling apart. I don't think you got to hit the panic button. I don't think that there's some world-ending thing. I just think they're playing average-ass football right now, if I'm being honest. I think they're better than what they're putting out right now.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think it's also one of those things where you cannot take things for granted. And I think sometimes it's easy to when you're BYU and you're playing at the level that BYU is, it's easy to take assignment football, gap integrity. It's easy to take neutral zone infractions. I think it's easy to take some of those little details for granted when you're playing a Utah State or Wyoming. I think it's a hell of a lot more difficult, and you're a little more laser focused. And I think it's natural to be more laser focused against Notre Dame and Arkansas than you are against Wyoming and Utah State. I think that's just the nature of being a human being. And I think, to me, those are the things that we have to figure out how you fix and how you become more consistent, because guys like Nick Saban who get, consistently get elite performances, well, you know what? Guess what? They went to Austin and they struggled against Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And you see these situations routinely where Appy State's going to go and knock off Michigan or some other major program.
Yeah.
Because that's the natural reaction for that big program against an Appy State or BYU against a Wyoming. You come out in those slow starts.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it is what it is. I don't know that there is a fix for that.
No, it's not an easy X's and O's fix, but I think it's a program-wide thing where it's like a culture, hey, we got to be on our game every single week.
I would agree with that. Tanner Plummer says this team is falling apart, but in my opinion, they're trending that way. Isn't falling apart, but in my opinion, they're trending that way. We'll see. They're not falling apart.
Yeah, I don't think they're falling apart
by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I would tell you not to have these wild swings. Like emotionally, I would not have these wild swings. It does not serve anybody.
Yeah,
and I just don't think it's accurate that they're trending towards falling apart. I don't.
Agreed.
I think you just have to be a little bit better. Garrett Messerly says, is there an update on Miles Davis? Not that I have seen.
He looked fine, by the way. There's video going around Twitter where when the game was over and all the BYU guys were kind of walking back to the locker room, he was walking fine. So I think he's going to be fine, but there's not an official update.
Exploring with Ben and Sam says, would Bronco return to BYU, especially as an assistant? Come on now.
Yeah,
I mean, is that something you really want to explore? You have a phenomenal head coach. And this is what I think you can't do, with all due respect. And Bronco or whoever else, you don't need Bronco Mendenhall. You're watching a coaching staff grow and develop.
Yeah.
When we're talking about, hey, would Bronco come back? I don't know, and I don't care, because I wouldn't bring him back. There's no reason to do that.
Yeah.
Bronco Mendenhall was phenomenal for this program. I to this day, I will tell you, I don't believe that Bronco got enough credit for the things that he did.
Mm-hmm.
But that ship has sailed. You have the right guy in the right space in the right time in Kalani Sitake.
And I believe that. I do believe he is the right guy. I just think there are struggles sometimes, and he has to work through those.
I think defensively, he's a phenomenal coordinator defensively. He's a great defensive mind. Tuiaki's going to have to figure this out. But guess what? It's not just on Tuiaki. The position coaches have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Harvey Unga has to figure out the running backs, and Fessie's got to figure out the wide receivers. Like, you just have a staff of guys that are too talented not to figure this out. Like it's one of those things where, in my opinion, you absolutely have to get fired up and take it personally.
Yeah.
I just think there's no doubt about the fact that you have to take this gig personally, because if you don't, you're going to lose.
Yeah, and that's why I say, like, I just think it's a seriousness thing. I mean, I really hate to say it, but I do kind of feel like, hey, yeah, it's Utah State. We'll be fine. Hey, it's Wyoming. We'll be fine. Yeah, we'll watch some tape. We'll put a game plan together. We'll be fine. That's kind of what and hey, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not trying to sit here and say that, they're just sort of bystanders through the process. Because I think that, BYU and their players, and Harris has talked about this in prior interviews, like, they're very intentional about their preparation. But I think, like, when you hear Kalani talk about it, or Jaron, or, whoever it might be talking about it, they are getting surprised by teams too often now. This is 3 weeks in a row where we have to talk about, we weren't ready for the physical nature of Wyoming's run game. We weren't prepared for, Utah State rolling out triple option in the quarterback run game. We weren't prepared for that, right? And so in the second half, we were prepared for that. We made adjustments, and they deserve a hell of a lot of credit for that, by the way.
They do.
They made great adjustments, and they started suffocating that quarterback run game totally. But I don't know how they're surprised. That's what I'm personally surprised about. I don't know how that happens.
I don't know either. Waiting for Harris LaChance. My guess is Harris has never been late one time. My guess is Harris LaChance is sleeping.
Probably.
That's what I would guess.
Which is fine.
It's really not the end of the world. Tanner says, I'd be down with Bronco coming back to run the defense. I'm not. You can't keep
why do
going
we need to
back.
have this conversation?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
These are the kind of conversations that drives me crazy. Like, it drives me crazy. I don't understand why we do that. You know what I mean? Like, let's see. San Diego State Aztec says Brady Hoke, not the right guy, riding on Rocky Long's hard work. Yeah, totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I just think that is the reality of it. Jeremy Bolton says, Mayor, I'm not worried about BYU. I bet they were looking past USU thinking they'd just roll over and die. We'll see a different BYU team against Notre Dame. If not, Fat Jesus becomes mayor.
Whoa. So you're basically guaranteeing
Whoa.
it.
Me? Whoa. Okay. Let's see. Garrett Messerly. Good morning, Garrett. Says it's sad when respected announcers are saying the same thing fans are saying. 7 against 5 and sometimes 4 cannot stop the run all night long. No. I mean, schematically, there are going to be questions about the defense. There is no doubt about that. And those are likely earned. I mean, you have to be able to perform at a higher level. Like, I mean, there's no doubt about that. But you know what? The thing that I think you have to remember is this is not something where you just have one guy deciding defense. Do you really think Kalani Sitake is hands off on defense? He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at what he did and who he learned under, by the way, Kyle Whittingham, come on. Who are we kidding?
They know how to play defense. The problem is they're just not executing right now.
Yeah, I just think that we're overreacting. That's what this is.
Well, I don't feel like I'm overreacting. I think these comments about like Bronco and the team's falling apart or that's just too much in my opinion. It's not too much to say that playing dime against the run is a bad idea and there's no reason for it. That's not too much to say. That's football schematics that they have to execute better on. That's just as plain as I can say it. But this stuff about slow starts like 3 weeks in a row, that's a bigger issue than hey, they thought it was Utah State. They started slow against Oregon. You got your ass handed to you in the first half by Wyoming, and then Utah State did what they did last night. This is a several-week thing now that needs to be addressed.
Yep. Edwin says, did BYU really have a choice between Bronco and Whittingham and went with Bronco? What could have been? No. That is such an old rumor. That just never happened.
Yeah.
That never happened. I mean, it is... Yeah, no, that never happened. So, why do we do this? I don't understand why we want to get in time machines and go back to, well, I would have done this. Or come on, man. What are we talking about?
Where are we at in society today?
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Exploring with Ben and Sam says, Bronco was solid, though. I mean, Whittingham has had struggles. And, yeah, coaching staff, even with turnover, shouldn't be developing at this point. Coaching staffs develop every single season, every single game. I mean, Elisa Tuiaki is a great defensive coordinator, and he needs, and I should say, Elisa Tuiaki can be a great defensive coordinator, but it's a team effort.
Yeah.
It's not something where you're just looking at Tuiaki and you're saying, well, you know what? He's got to improve. Come on, guy. Like, do you really think this is 100% on Tuiaki?
Apparently.
It's not. It's not. And when you look at the way that the staff is built, I'm telling you now that I look at their defensive staff, whether it's Clune, whether again, I just look at their staff, and I'm telling you now that guys like Ed Lamb have just as much impact on this staff as Tuiaki does. Mm-hmm. It's not a one-man show. That's not the way football staffs are built. And you look at a guy like a Preston Hadley or, a Harvey Unga, former players getting into the coaching business, learning, growing, developing. Why do you think guys like, Guy Holiday is such a valuable asset to a football program? Because he's been there, he's done that. He can develop younger coaches.
Yeah. College
football is a sport of development on a daily basis. You learn from winning, you learn from losing.
Yeah.
It's just not a one-way thing. Giggity says, am I wrong in thinking Utah sports fans expect way more than what is realistic from all their sports teams? Yes. Exactly right. Exactly right. Will Vandenberg may have missed this, but have we talked about how our character A-Rod's play calling felt last night? All the third quarter and long runs. Also, he needs to figure out how to use Isaac Rex. Still love him. Listen, I think Isaac Rex is
very capable.
A big conundrum because he is very capable. I mean, there's just no doubt about that. He is very capable. And my thing has always been, can you count on Isaac Rex? I think you can. The injury, he's on the field. He's not injured.
Yeah.
If he's on the field, throw him the football. And I would like to see their tight end usage go up.
Yeah.
Braden Cosper, I'd like to see his usage go up.
But again, if you're struggling in the run game, your tight end usage is not going to go up.
You're going to have to stay in and block more.
Yeah.
And it's going to be tougher. You look at like that crossing route where Gunnar Romney got lit up. I hate that route. Why are we calling that route? Why are we throwing that route?
Yeah.
That's what I don't love. But the run game I think the issue is the back, not the line. Yeah. I think philosophically speaking, the running game is fine. Christopher Brooks has a very limited use, scope-wise, situationally speaking, I think his use is not equal across the board.
Yeah.
Is what I would say. When you look at a guy like a Miles Davis, he's a totally different back than Chris Brooks. Chris is a bigger, thicker, stronger back. You look at Miles Davis, he's faster, lighter on his feet, much more of an edge rusher where Chris Brooks is an A-B gap guy.
Yeah.
You're looking at Miles getting outside. Like, it's just philosophically, it's a different style. But what does that mean? And the issue with that is when you hand the ball to Christopher Brooks and you're a Harris LaChance, you're expecting a big physical back to hit the hole. So, hey, I got to turn this guy more quickly. I'm trying to turn him out. Or when I'm looking at a guy like Miles Davis, okay, well, I know he's going to bounce outside in all likelihood. I need to turn this guy in. I need to set an edge. If I'm Kingsley Suamataia, I'm much more worried about setting an edge for Miles Davis to get around the court. Like, it's a different philosophy.
Facts.
It's different style of runner. And I think when you're interchanging that, you're going to have far more inconsistency in the running game because they are night and day. They are not stylistically similar, in my opinion, in any way, shape, or form. And so I think when you have situational running, goal line, inside of the 10-yard line, give the ball to Chris Brooks. Let's play hammer football. I want to see this offensive line lean on guys.
Yeah.
I want to see you use the size, Barrington to to Kingsley, Suamataia.
Yeah.
Across that offensive line, have those dudes lean on people.
Yeah.
They
got to get off the ball better, man.
But again, Connor Pay cannot have penalties. We can't have an offensive lineman drifting downfield.
Yeah.
Can't do that. There's just no way to allow that to happen. So anyway, there's my run game philosophy. You're welcome. You may take notes if you like. I don't know. Zayman says, Brooks finally hit the gap way quicker late. Needs to continue to do that. I agree. And with more force. Ruben Reyes says, we'll be okay. I live by New Mexico State. That's what bad football looks like. Well, there you go. Jansen says, Monty spitting the truth and nothing but the truth. That's what we do. It's what we do. You know what I'm saying? Kay Nurin, we need to wake up and play hard every game. The players play the game you need. 100% effort every game. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think when you're talking about 100% effort, I think a lot of that is mental as well as physical. It's not that guys are not trying hard.
Yeah.
That certainly is not the case. Well. Look at SLC. Pea Shooter making an appearance on the show. As an Aggie, this chat room is the next best thing to actually winning. Y'all Cougars are crazy. Truth. Garrett Messerly says, thanks for pronouncing my name correctly. Well done, Monty. You're welcome. We appreciate you, being here and all that stuff.
There you go.
And we'd appreciate if you would go to Barbecue Pit Stop. Any of their 5 Utah locations, including Logan, Layton, Lehigh, St. George, and our good friends in Murray. I was asked for my wing recipe yesterday. Now, listen, my wing recipe is top secret stuff. And listen.
This is corny stuff.
It's so top secret that I store it at Mar-a-Lago.
Don't lie to me.
Nobody has access to it. Probably too much. Anyway, my point is, listen, my wing recipe is very secret. Here it is. I'm now all in on asada seasoning. That is what it is, right?
It's very powerful.
Go to Barbecue Pit Stop. Any of their 5, Utah locations, St. George, Layton, Lehigh, Logan, and of course Murray. Say, hey man, Monty sent me in to get asada seasoning for my wings. And really, you can put asada seasoning on anything you want.
Yeah.
But don't be so rude to eat your breakfast tacos that smell tremendous in front of people who cannot possibly eat breakfast tacos.
Physiologically, it's a non-starter.
My wife right now, and I'm going to turn the camera. My wife right now is sitting in front of us eating breakfast tacos.
A motherfucking
that smells so good. I am so distracted.
Whoa.
That's a close-up.
Whoa.
Look at how good those breakfast tacos look. Look at that. Let me go ahead and fucking zoom in. That's organic refried black beans, sweet potato, and like pepper mix. That's incredible. Good on you, Mrs. Monty. She is refueling after her Peloton ride. But the point is, listen to me, friends. Go to Barbecue Pit Stop and get the asada seasoning. They also have bags of what's called wing dust. Off the charts.
Yes.
You're going to make wings this weekend? Do it.
All gas, no break.
BarbecuePitstop.com. Chat with them. Ask them, hey, what's the best seasoning for wings? Because I also got to tell you, the Chop House Italian from Kinder, oh, my God.
Bomb.
But obviously, when you go to Barbecue Pit Stop, you got to ask them about a Traeger, a Yoder, a Big Green Egg, because they have
every single time
the best selection of equipment at Barbecue Pit Stop. And the other thing that they have is the best dudes working at Barbecue Pit Stop, because they're going to help you. They're going to advise you. They are going to teach you and show you how exactly you, my friends, can become a grill master. Now, also, please, stop using charcoal briquettes. Get on the wood pellet smoker grind. It's easy. It's fun.
Please.
It's tasty.
Yes.
I'm telling. There is nothing you cannot smoke on a smoker. Whatever you can think of, you can do it.
Yes.
And it all starts at Barbecue Pit Stop. BarbecuePitstop.com, BBQPitstop.com. Shop any of their 5 Utah locations. From Logan, Layton, Lehigh, St. George, and Murray. Tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Steve and the guys at Barbecue Pit Stop. Great local business owners. Phenomenal dudes. Had our watch party there. You have Ute fans, USU fans. The Logan store, by the way, phenomenal. Huge, massive.
Have their own butcher shop.
Yeah, and pretty much all of the Barbecue Pit Stops now have meat in some form or fashion. That Logan store, though, is off the chain.
It's on steroids, bro.
It is off the Chisano. Okay, that came out wrong.
Wow.
It's not what I meant to say.
Did you really just say that?
The Chisane.
Oh, shit.
Okay, been nice doing business with you. All right, before we get out of here, a couple other comments I want to get to. San Diego State Aztecs says, pronunciation. Monty, you're flipping back and forth on getting Gonzaga.
Get the hell out of here. It's Gonzaga.
It's Gonzaga.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Oh, he don't know nothing.
Yes, it isn't. I wish they were here. I wish they were in Wyoming. BarbecuePitstop.com, dude. Super easy. BBQ Pit Stop.
Wyoming ain't that far from Utah.
BBQPitstop.com.
Come on.
1 T. BBQPitstop.com. 1 T. Why is it doing that? BBQPitstop.com.
And
That's all
they
I'll
ship,
say.
don't they?
What's that?
Do they ship?
Yes, they ship. You can buy online.
Yeah.
Let's see. CR says Argentinian BBQ is better than smoked meat. Whatever you say.
Next comment.
Kenai Johnson says you can find Monty's recipe with the Watergate films.
Correct.
Exactly right.
Correct.
Exactly right. Knowing Mrs. Monty, she has to have green peppers somewhere on there, Jansen says.
Yep.
What now?
Dude,
let me tell you what now.
Mrs. Monty makes she is a phenomenal cook. And she made the best batch of mashed sweet potatoes this week. So we made tacos for lunch the other day. Good Lord. Those mashed sweet potatoes. If you're going to meal prep, throw some sweet potatoes in the quick pot.
Yep.
So good. Ken Williams says, we did wings last night. They were yummy. Smoke them. I ordered some online. It was so good. Nice.
Let's go.
Love that. Tanner says, Mont, your wing recipe was with nuclear codes that the Tangerine Twitter machine took from the White House? Could be. Could be.
I want it.
Absolutely could be. San Diego State Aztec says, wood pellet smoker equals tasty food. Wood offset / lump coal smokers equals the best way to smoke.
Well,
I mean, I don't, it's that smoking hippie lettuce, gesundheit. You know. Lopes fan Gabe says, I also love that Barbecue Pit Stop was like, you don't want that product on our shelves. Buy this one instead. Way better.
Yeah.
They don't have if you walk in there and say, hey man, I'm making a pork butt, what should I do?
The answer is yes.
They're going to give you everything you need.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a product bias at all or any way, shape, or form. Anyway, I guess that's it. Show's over today.
Yeah, I guess so.
A little bit of a
good
shorty.
Week. Good week.
Yeah, good week, folks. I am so excited for the show on Monday.
Lots of new stuff on
Monday. We
have
a brand new partner jumping on board the show on Monday. Excited to talk about that. The new ads that are coming from Papa Murphy's Pizza are phenomenal.
Incredible.
They're going to be amazing. Make sure you check those out on the show Monday. And yeah, have a great weekend. Tweet with us. Huge announcements. I'm hoping to make a huge announcement one day next week. We shall find out. We shall find out. No. It's the huge announcement that Mrs. Monty is leaving. No, she's not on the show again. People are wondering why Mrs. Monty's not on the show today. You know, it is what it is. Giggity says, great show, fellas.
See,
Thanks
she's not on the
do.
show because she's still in the 9-to-5 life.
Yeah, she's grinding at 9 to 5. Mrs.
Monty
Monty should get to tridaytrading.com.
/Monty.
Yes. And she works for a living, too.
Anyway.
I love my wife.
Yes.
And she was on the show today. You know. Jansen says, we will be back when Arkansas beats Alabama. Could be. Ken Williams says, bye, Jake. LOL. Say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.